proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, here's Zach Wolchuk and Brian Broaddus.
3rd and goal at the 6, but it's 2-down territory. Snap is back. Prescott looking. Now he's throwing in the end zone. It's intercepted. Kazir White intercepted it on the pass to the post and takes a knee for a touchback. First turnover of the year.
Cardinals run for 222 yards. Cowboys 1 of 5 in the red zone, not to mention 13 penalties today for 107 yards. A recipe to get defeated. 28-16, the Cards knock off the Cowboys in Arizona, where they have now lost 8 of their last 9 against the Cardinals. That is a stadium, and we talked about it in the postgame last week, Brian.
Yeah.
Good things have not happened for the Cowboys, and they fall to 2-1, and certainly a lot of different reasons why.
Yeah, and going into the game, all the things that you thought about with Arizona, and I know myself watching their tape and talking about it on all the platforms that I get to, I didn't feel like that was an 0-2 team. I just, in the pregame show, I asked Dave Pasch, their play-by-play guy, is this a team that has problems finishing games? And he's like, no, I don't think we have a problem finishing game. We just don't have enough talent. Well, today you had enough talent, and but when you watch the Cardinals play, there were some things scheme-wise that you knew were going to give the Cowboys offense their defense some problems, and especially early in the first half. When Dobbs ripped off that run, they didn't come back with another RPO. I don't think.
I don't remember another one.
He had that one, and it went out the gate for 44 yards, and you're kind of thinking, oh my gosh, here they go. They're going to RPO you to death. But I think the physicality with which Arizona played this game today, and especially down in the red zone, where they were able to, the Cardinals had problems in coverage. You saw some shots that were taken down the field. Nice to see Michael Gallup have some productive plays, but I didn't feel like they took enough advantage of some of that today. The offensive line, the backup offensive line today for the Cowboys, don't think that was a problem at all.
Not the reason why you lost this game.
Not the reason why there. I'm looking at the red zone stuff, and I can't wait to get to the all-22. People say, well, what about the play calling? What about the play call in the last 5 minutes of the game when they get down there? And then Dak. Those are the kinds of interceptions I worry about with Dak.
Yeah,
I don't think he ever saw.
You can't have, man.
Yeah, I don't think he ever saw.
No
I don't think he saw
drive.
White at all. But McCarthy didn't help him either. Maybe he kicked the field goal, or maybe some of the stuff. So there's a lot of things offensively that were problems today. Again, I don't think it was the offensive line that was the issue. The defense was just so horrendous, like in the first half. And then, they kind of find their legs and their footing. And then all of a sudden, though, they bust a coverage. To me, it looked like, I'll have to look at the tape, as like coaches always say, but it looks like to me Malik Hooker got caught in a bad spot there, and that's, Malik Hooker's there's times when Malik Hooker has been very good. The interception last week, and there's been time where he missed the tackle on the long run last week in the game. The Jets only score, and then that play to lose coverage on the receiver on his end. So, there was things defensively, but the Arizona Cardinals, I think, did a great job of scheming and doing exactly what they do, and the Cowboys had a lot of problems with that.
They sure did. I mean, most rushing yards the Cowboys have allowed in a first half since 1991, which is unreal. 182 yards allowed in the first half, and it got a little bit better there in the second half. But then as soon as you end up scoring, and then you give up that big play to set up Arizona in the red zone, and then they're able to punch in for a touchdown. Yeah. And they get pressure on Dobbs, and Dobbs is backing up, and makes a throw, ends up getting caught for a touchdown there. And now it's 28-16. I do think you're right. The offensive line, especially when it comes to the run blocking, they ran the ball pretty darn well. Yeah. And I think they held up well enough in pass protection. I was shocked and I don't know if it was Dak being hesitant. He didn't trust it, but you needed to take more shots down the field. And the times that they did, it worked out for them. There was either a penalty called, right, or you're able to hit CeeDee Lamb on a big 23-yard chunk. I do think certainly criticism fair on the quarterback as well.
Yeah, it's to me, whether it's him trying to be in that mode of, okay, I'm going to take what they give me kind of a thing. But I don't know. Just watching Arizona play, the separation that receivers were able to get, and the Cowboys, go back, we'll probably watch this. Maybe the Cowboys didn't get the separation that others have had. It seemed like the Commanders and the Giants were able to get separation. That's why going into the game, I thought if you could hold up front, there was going to be opportunities for plays down the field. And it just didn't materialize like I thought it might. But, hey, hats off to Arizona defensively and what they were able to do in the red zone. They just, every time that Dallas took a trip down there, they were covered. There was pressure. Things just, for a team that you felt like could just completely fall apart, they didn't. The team that fell apart really was the Cowboys. And when they got down there, too many trips down there without touchdowns being the end
1
result.
for 5 in the red zone. Simply unacceptable. It's a formula to lose. And you mentioned Arizona, 2 for 2 in the red area. So, Arizona made the most of their opportunities. They were the better team today.
They were. They really were.
It was shocking, though. And I know we'll always focus on the offense and the red zone woes and the Dak interception there. And Dak, you'd like to see your quarterback play better today. You certainly would have. When you're without 3 starting offensive linemen, then your backups come in and do a really good job. You need your quarterback to elevate and play better. He didn't, right?
He really
there
didn't.
were a lot of plays that were underthrown. That interception at the end there in the end zone, inexcusable. You're in year 8. You know better than that. And Mike McCarthy's talking to him as well. You need to see more from your quarterback in those situations. I got a lot of people talking about the body language on the sideline. I hear you. I get that. First time you've seen this team get down, face adversity, and they didn't really respond. But I was blown away at how poor the defense came out and looked.
They were, from the word go, just not in sync at all. And maybe a lot going on with the whole thing with Diggs and the injury and all that. I mean, Diggs is an outstanding player. But I don't think physically the Dallas Cowboys were ready to play this game today. And I think that they came in there with the attitude of, okay, we can kind of roll it out there, roll our helmets out there, and Arizona was going to roll over and allow us to do whatever we want, whether it's, sack them or, tackles for loss and all that. It's, Arizona, it wasn't until very end of in the second half that they actually forced a punt. So, that just shows you though, when you get in the NFL, that if you're not ready to play, there is a really good possibility that no matter how good you are, but you're not ready to play, you're going to lose a football game. And that's what happened today.
877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text, 877-881-1053 on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys. 28-16, Cowboys suffer their first loss of the season in Arizona to the Cardinals. They were heavy favorites, big time letdown after a tremendous start by this football team. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus. But, Bryan, when it comes to some of the play calling in this one, the screen to Rico Dowdle was excellent. They scored a touchdown on that. We mentioned they ran the football pretty well. But was it really just the lack of shots down the field, or was there other things in the game that you thought, man, what's going on here?
I would love to have had the shots down the field because I felt like the line could have held up. And you could have maxed that thing up. You could have gone 12 personnel. And to me, I felt like that Michael Gallup was feeling it a little bit today, with his ability to catch the ball and go get the ball. And he needed to have a big game. And he did. It was good to see him get going. It's a shame that it was in a loss. They did a great job of covering Brandon Cooks.
They did.
CeeDee Lamb had a couple of nice plays. I just wish there were those shots. But to me, where you got down into the red zone and you got down, especially in the 10, how many first down runs did you have?
Mm-hmm.
You had a lot of McCarthy, I felt like, was for the offensive line that was maybe a little bit, maybe you were worried about him a little bit. But, man, I tell you what, that just seemed like a lot of first down runs there. Maybe if you go a play action there or something, there really wasn't much creativity to their red zone offense at all. I just didn't get, I didn't feel like that they were scheming anybody open there. But Arizona did a great job. I mean, Arizona, when you when you looked at the television copy of the end zone and Dak's trying to throw the ball, it was a lot of red,
sure,
splattered on white in that game to play pass defense.
Yeah, there sure was. And when it comes to the pass rush, that was the one area, even with the Diggs injury, you're thinking, all right, you've had an elite pass rush through 2 games. Micah Parsons still there.
Yeah.
But you had, the amount of offside penalties in that first half.
Well, it was very evident because the way that the Arizona center moves his head, maybe you're trying to gauge like head movement and then snap. Sometimes you get a little bit of rhythm if you
try and get some timing down.
Yeah, I remember when we used to interview DeMarcus Lawrence, and he would always, and I'd ask him about, if a guy turns his head or the guard flashes his hand, to snap the ball, and how quickly sometimes you could get a little bit of a gauge on that. So maybe the Cowboys were trying to get a little bit of a gauge on the Arizona center with the head movement and then the ball, and then they were jumping that count or trying to jump that count.
No doubt. Play calling certainly an issue there in the red zone. That's something that dated back to last week.
I wish he'd have taken those points.
Yeah, that was something we talked about here. And it was, what was it, 21-13 at the time?
Yeah.
You take the field goal, it's 21-16. I kind of felt it was 4th and 4.
4th and 4.
And in the moment, Mike McCarthy's been aggressive in the past, and my logic and thinking, and you the whole time were like, just take the points here. My logic is, and maybe I was, trying to talk myself into it, I was confident they're going to get this.
Yeah.
They're going to make this be aggressive. It'll be okay. And if you don't, then at least you've pinned Arizona back to where maybe you get a safety. And they almost did with that holding call in the end zone.
Yeah, they evidently the holding call was before
Dobbs. At the 1 yard line.
Yeah,
where
Dobbs got in the end zone. But this game was going to be tight. It was going to be tough. You had momentum. I think you gave a little momentum back to Arizona. But to me, I'm not chasing. To me, I was even worried that the Cowboys would even have a good enough 2-point play. That's
fair concern.
My biggest concern was kick the field goal, and then if you score, that way you don't have to run a 2-point play. But it's a moot point. Arizona deserved to win today, and they were clearly the better team. Your team got outcoached. Your team got really outplayed. Arizona was more physical, and they deserved the victory today.
They certainly did. Joshua Dobbs, 17 of 21, 189 yards, only 2 sacks, had a touchdown,
Played
no turnovers.
a clean game. Gosh, he was clean today.
He made some really big-time throws. There was that third down throw when that drive we were just
20-yard, was it 21, 22, 23-yard pass down? Yeah.
To Marquise Brown.
Marquise Brown was a problem today, with him running around. And then Rondell Moore out of the backfield, the long run, the run he had 45 yards. It's like the Cowboys weren't even aware where he was. We talked about it in all week long, and when we broke down Arizona, that they like to move more around, and you have to be aware for him. And but the Cowboys clearly weren't aware from him. They got blocked really well on that play, and which resulted into the touchdown.
No, absolutely. Just a terrible performance offensively and defensively from the Cowboys today. 28-16. Cardinals got the win. Of course, post-game show brought to you by Pepsi, made for Cowboys watching. I do want to hear from you. 877-881-1053. A lot of texts coming in as well, but let's head out to the phones. Let's go to line 3. We got Robert and Hal. Robert, how you doing, sir? You're on the Dallas Cowboys post-game show.
Peter, how are you guys doing?
We've been better, sir.
No, I feel you on that one. So I don't know if you guys remember what I called last week about not liking Dak and kind of got into it back and forth.
Yeah.
So, one, I'd like to open up and say total collapse all the way around from offense, defense, special teams. It wasn't good at all. But at the same time, Dak still didn't do what he was supposed to do. How many times have we scored this year in the red zone besides the kickoff? How many touchdowns have we scored in the red zone?
I think 2.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Do you know the answer?
We scored plenty of points. Say again?
Do you know the answer? Do you know how many we've scored? Okay. I was wondering why you asked the question. Yeah.
Well, because it's just a hypothetical, like just okay, yeah, because we've kicked so many field goals.
Yeah.
You can't win games playing the field goals.
No,
I hear you, Robert. And today, absolutely, the red zone offense was bad. And it's surprising because last week, I guess, one of the things that I was optimistic about was we talked about when we were in Oxnard and we saw them do the 5 red zone plays.
Yeah, the 2-point plays.
And
all were really good.
And all of them really involved Brandon Cooks. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, you didn't have Brandon Cooks last week. Maybe
Right.
getting him back will help that and mitigate some of those problems with his quickness.
Right.
Well, it didn't.
Yeah.
It still didn't look any better today.
No, not at all. The caller, he wants to blame Dak. That's fine. Dak was part of the problem today.
Yeah, you can blame Dak today.
Absolutely.
Dak wasn't good enough.
He wasn't good enough
but
today.
The defense we talked about is, possibly being historically good. You're not a historically good defense when you give up 180 yards in the first half.
No.
And you only sack Josh Dobbs twice when you don't have any turnovers. So I'm totally fair with lumping criticism on Dak, on Mike McCarthy and the play calling. But the defense needs to be held accountable today too.
Dan Quinn needs to wear this one. Defensive staff needs to wear this one. Yeah, I mean, you lose Diggs, and he's a fine player, but you still have one of the top 3 defensive players in the league on your roster. And, you have to find ways to move him around. I think Dan did. I think it was a really tough game that we knew that Arizona's tackles were pretty good. Their guards are not very good. And so, they didn't do a good enough job of winning up front, especially in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't win nearly enough up front. So, yeah, Dan Quinn, you wear this one. Micah Parsons, you wear this one. Everybody that dressed and played defense today for the Dallas Cowboys, Kearse, you wear this one too. They were not good enough on defense, especially in the first half.
No, they didn't come out. They didn't look ready to play, and the team's speed wasn't there either. They were flying around making plays. Coverage was poor at times. I mean, certainly you knew they would come out and test Ron Bland. You know immediately. I mean, Mike McCarthy talked about it with Brad Sham. Like, okay, how are you going to attack your defense knowing Trayvon Diggs is out? Well, you immediately throw at that opposite corner and see can he answer that. And teams are going to do that until Deron Bland steps up and says, hey, I can stop it.
Right.
That's going to be a theme moving forward.
Well, the defense gave up some huge plays. If you just look at the explosive plays that they had, James Conner had a 26-yard run. Dobbs had a 44-yard run. Rondell Moore had a 45-yard run. The receivers.
Chunk plays, man.
Just chunk plays. Michael Wilson, 69-yard reception. Marquise Brown with a 23-yard reception. Yeah, that was the third down play that they were able to make. So Dallas generally pretty good with those explosives, but not that way today.
Yeah, offensively, and when the defense really found a rhythm there in the third quarter, that's when you're not able to cash in those scoring drives. You settled for 3, and then you go for it on 4th down, and you're not able to convert. So that's where, you talk about the complementary football. Well, no. I mean, the complementary football wasn't there. It was bad on both sides. But as soon as your defense started getting it going, your offense wasn't there to help out, put points on the board. Just frustrating all the way around. But the penalties today were also just a major, major glaring issue. You can't have 13 penalties. Now, 10 of them were in the first half. They got it cleaned up a little bit. And I'm still a little bit baffled at why they picked up that pass interference on Michael Gallup in the corner of the end zone there. Personally, anytime the corner doesn't turn his head around and he runs through the receiver, I think that's an easy call to make. I feel like only the Cowboys get that one picked up, but they did. And you've got to find a way to navigate through that. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you for the injuries. I get it. The Diggs loss, an emotional blow. You're without Zach Martin and Tyron Smith today and Tyler Broaddus, your center. But as we've talked about, I was really impressed with guys like TJ Bass and especially Hoffman.
I had my whole going into this game, I just did not know what to expect from that group. And they were not the issue today, not at all.
They played well enough for you to.
They played well enough for you,
did.
yeah. And but everything else kind of. Now we'll see on the red zone stuff.
Yeah,
we'll see on the red zone. Maybe there were some
missed assignments,
maybe some missed assignments and things like that when we go back and watch L22. But I did not feel like that the offensive line was. It wasn't like when they went to Atlanta that one year and Chaz Green was just it was completely falling apart. Yeah.
Some humble pie for us on this Saturday evening, and we certainly want to talk with you.
Can I say something real quick?
Please do.
Yeah, this about the offensive line, though. Maybe we go back and watch Adoga. Maybe he wasn't as good. I don't think Adoga is a tackle.
I'm with you. I was surprised by that.
I've
Smith
said it all along.
Adoga
Yeah,
I was with you.
I've said all along. I think Adoga inside is a much better player, but here we go.
I'm 100% with you on that. All right, we're going to hear from Coach Mike McCarthy, get his thoughts after this. We'll hear from Dak Prescott as well, the voice of your Cowboys, Brad Sham. More of your calls and texts as well. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
ProStar Energy Solutions wrote the playbook for innovative energy solutions with the opening of AT&T Stadium. This mindset is why we created a complete energy playbook.
snack on this delicious all-time classic, someone utters the dreaded words.
Can I have a bite?
Should you? Shouldn't you? Maybe you should just take a big bite so you don't have to answer. Ooh, glad that dilemma's over. The Whataburger Patty Melt, just like you like it. Order online to earn rewards.
People will always come and go in our lives, but we all know those few who never left. The ones who make you stronger, build you up when you're broken down. The partners who've always had you covered. At Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas, we know what it means to be there, guiding you toward a healthier state of mind. Because the more we know as individuals, the healthier we all feel as a community through it all.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler.
What a catch by Brown. Touchdown, Arizona.
28-16, the Cardinals knock off the Cowboys. The Cowboys fall to 2-1. Arizona getting their first win of the year. They improved to 1-2. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus here on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Let's welcome in the voice of your Cowboys, the great Brad Sham, joining us. And Brad, certainly the defense was horrific in the first half, but 1 for 5 in the red zone, and we were kicking this around just from the TV copy. It's kind of tough to see the separation the receivers were getting. What stood out to you watching the offense in the red zone during those series?
Well, as Bryan knows, I'm in the same boat. I had the feeling that there wasn't much separation all day, but it doesn't. That's not the reason they lost. The reason they lost was they were horse excrement in every phase.
Yeah.
They had more penalties today than they did in the first 2 weeks combined. Some of them were really costly. Several of them were on special teams. The red zone stuff certainly didn't help them. And then I don't know, Zach, how often I've said this over the years. Not very many times. But that team was badly outcoached today. They were not prepared. You can have a series. Remember the first series of the Giants game? Okay, and then you adjust.
Yeah,
right.
But this team was not ready to play this game mentally in any phase. Now we got into halftime, and things look pretty good. When you come out and you get a stop and then you get a field goal, you'd rather have 7. But you get a field goal, but then on the second possession, you decide to go for 4th and 4.
Right.
Instead of taking your 3 points. So I really think it's a little – the red zone offense was not good. But I think it's micro-examining to blame the loss on that, because everything that happens in a football game and everything else that happens flows from it. So – you get a field goal here where you didn't get anything, and it changes the mentality. And it's easy to sit back when it's over and say, well, look at what they did in the red zone. And it was poor. I'm not saying it wasn't poor.
Sure.
But it wasn't – it was so much not by itself that to me is not the reason they lost.
Brad, I think the big contributor today – by the way, I felt like the offensive line, the backup offensive line with the exception of Steele – he's the starter, but I thought those kids did a nice job today of holding up. I know Adoga, there were some moments where it wasn't great, but I didn't think like that they were the main issue today.
No, I'm very interested to see the tape because I felt like they held there. They may not have been great.
No.
But they're not the reason they lost.
No. But I think one of the reasons that they did lose, and you're right, it's just everything you can look at, but the plays, those explosive plays that Arizona made in this game. Yeah. It just, every when you needed to make a stop or you needed to make, and all of a sudden it's a 69-yard pass, on a coverage, or it's a 45-yard run when you put a wide receiver in the running back. Just recognition of things, and I think it's to your point of not being ready to play, just not being ready to play.
The Cardinals had 3 rushing plays of
25 yards or more. Yeah, they had 26, 44, and 45.
I mean, shame on Dallas for getting surprised by Dobbs running for 52 yards on the first possession of the game.
Sure.
Shame on you.
Sure.
You've seen the guy before. And then they couldn't stop Connor. They were arguing with themselves about alignment. The big plays are just killers. And, the pass, obviously there's somebody screwed up in coverage, and I'm sure they have not done that all year.
Right.
And I don't know who that was, and I don't know if we'll ever find out. But, you can't get those big plays. And it took them forever to get any, it seemed like, until they got Lamb free the first time. But, they got no takeaways. They got 1 sack and gave up sacks, and it was just all bad. They just didn't look ready to play.
Run defense, they gave up more yards in the first half than they have in a game since '91. I thought that was just absolutely mind blowing. But
that's a long time.
It is. And I mean, how concerning is that for you moving forward, or are you chalking up to just a bad week?
Well, I think we have 2 games of evidence to tell us that they are capable of being good. Now, we've seen this kind of nonsense before, just in past years. And I think that we all thought that, especially after they made the adjustment in week 1 and didn't allow any more of that, I think most of us thought that they'd figured it out, and so that won't happen again. But now, I mean, this film's out there for the world to see.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have to figure out what mistakes they made, what run fits were poor, where they were in the wrong spot. And the thing that it tells everybody they play is this is possible. I mean, the first 2 weeks, it didn't look like anything was possible.
Right.
Now you put this tape up and you say, fellas, this can be done. Look at this.
Right.
So the Cowboys are going to have to be paying attention to those minute details every week.
Brad, I was trying to kind of find some positivity out of this, and I know in the week leading up to the game, we were all hopeful that maybe we would see Michael Gallup show up a little bit more. And I kind of felt like watching Arizona's tape, there would be some opportunities for him to catch the football. He has to. I know it's a loss, but he has to feel like, okay, I'm on my way back now. I'm on my way.
Absolutely.
I can help this offense going forward.
And more than him thinking it, they can look at it and say, okay, we got to get the ball to Gallup.
Yeah.
That's on us if we don't get the ball to Gallup at all. And so, he had the hitch that he made the guy miss, picked up 20 yards. He's certainly, we know that he's really good at running slants as well as the deep ball. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think that that's a place where that he can say, I'm back in the mix, fellas. I'm back in the mix.
Any other thoughts before we let you out of here, Brad?
Pollard had a 100-yard day.
You sure did.
How about that? Yeah.
And I really think that it bears repeating what Bryan said a moment ago, that you had your worries about Bryan said it during the week. He said it. He wrote it. That this team's better than you think. Mm-hmm. So just be careful. And you could see it on tape. You could see where the plays were available for them to make. But I think that what Bryan said a minute ago about the three backup offensive linemen is not the reason that they lost this game. I think that really bears repeating, because they will need all those young men. They weren't perfect by any means.
No.
But they weren't the reason they lost, and they played their butts off, and they hung in there. And I think that they grew up, those three guys grew up a good bit today. And you just got to go, but you got to start with the run defense. I mean, the offense was on its heels all day playing catch up because of that miserable run defense, and it looked like a lot of mental errors. And the penalties are very discouraging. So I think that the next game will be very interesting to see how they respond.
Absolutely. Brad, thank you so much, as always, for your time. Have a safe flight home and an easy fast tomorrow, sir.
All right. Thank you. You too, Zach. Thanks.
There he goes, the voice of your Dallas Cowboys, Brad Sham, with us here on the official postgame show. 28-16, Cardinals get the win as the Cowboys drop their first game of the season. Let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds for station ID on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Go low, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
All right, we have head coach Mike McCarthy, who took the podium postgame. Let's hear what Coach had to say.
Red zone struggles continue. Just can you talk about you didn't go for the field goal late in the third quarter, and just what's the problem with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're not executing obviously the way we like to. I got to do a better job. Obviously, it starts with me. They were playing us really, high in coverage. So that's why we were committing to the run, which I felt. A lot of times we had to go the length of the field. We backed off in some shot plays and everything, but yeah, we need to do a better job in red zone.
What happened on the final interception?
Say again?
The final interception.
I mean, I can't give you clarity on what I'd see. I mean, it was the coverage. You're trying to get a one-on-one in the back of the end zone there, trying to isolate the Mike.
Mike Todd Archer with ESPN. The run defense, you said teams are always going to test you. Was today a case of?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it was clear from the start that they were going to test the middle of our run defense. So, yeah, I mean, it's something we gotta be better at, and we know that's going to be the challenge.
It was better the first 2 weeks. Obviously, it was part of that score of game, and teams couldn't run that. Yeah,
I mean, hey, that's the challenge of this league. Every game is so unique, and to the specific matchups and so forth. This has been a rough week on a lot of fronts. I think the amount of adversity you go through your preparation process, and we didn't have enough today. We needed the discipline and the penalties. I mean, the numbers in the first half were obviously something that was difficult to deal with. yeah, they scored 4 touchdowns. We had 1 touchdown, 3 field goals. You know, that's the scoring component of it. But, you know, when you get into the situational stuff and how we feel teams are going to attack us, you know, we have to learn from this because, I mean, it's going to be an every week challenge. So.
Michael Kelkin, Dallas Morning News. Did you know when you got on the flight Saturday that you'd be without all 3 linemen, or when did you become aware?
Yeah, I was hopeful going into Saturday's practice, but you know when we walked off the field Saturday, that's kind of our final personnel meeting. So yes, when we got on the flight, we knew what the situation. We didn't know about Tyron. Tyron was a game day.
What had to change once you know that you're without 3?
Oh, it changes. I mean, it changes a lot of things. But you know, I'm proud of our young linemen. You know, I tell you, I mean, they not only they stepped up and played today, but they did it on very little, you know, reps, you know, throughout the week. So I mean, it wasn't, you know, that's a challenge that everybody has. You know, when you have injuries on Sunday, it's a you know, you got a full week of prep to go into it. When you have things that are not clear till the end of the week, it's a challenge on the guys that have to step in there. And I thought all 3 of those guys did a nice job.
John Rochelle, The Athletic, with penalties, Mike, is there anything that you can clean up from it at halftime, or is it just?
Well, I mean, I obviously addressed it at halftime, John, but I have to look at it. I mean, it's, you know, we do a breakdown of, you know, of every official group, and you know, and I told the team last night, you're going to be frustrated. You know, just certain crews, you know, call it differently than others, and so you know, we knew that coming in here, and that held very true in the first half. So we knew there. You know, that's just the history. It's part of the game. I mean, you know, everything's evaluated. Everything's part of your preparation, and we got to be better.
Mike, the backup ball was, I got 2 questions. Backup ball was like, how much did it affect your play call, especially down call?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it's obvious. I don't want to discredit those guys at all, but I mean, it's you know, there's reps that go into, you know, wrinkles. You know, your variation of your base concepts, whether, you know, protection and, you know, so yeah, there's some things that were taken off, but I'll tell you, like I said, I'm proud of I'm proud of those guys. They stepped up and did what was asked of them.
Secondly, do you think the defense felt too good about themselves in the first 2 games, and they came here with a little less intensity?
I don't think, not after the week we had. I think that'd have been fair. You know, we had a lot going on as a team this week, and so we didn't play our best game, that's for sure.
To lose this game in this fashion on the road, but you're still 2-1. What's your message to the guys to keep their eyes forward for the win?
I'm just, you know, honest and real, and I addressed the game, what my thoughts on the game, and the reality of where we are. We're 2-1. Yeah, we're going to fully expect to win every week. So I mean, this, you know, obviously we're disappointed. You know, we're disappointed that we're leaving here without a win. But this is part of the journey. It's part of the humbling component of the National Football League. So just like anything, every experience gives you an opportunity to grow. So we need to grow from this experience.
Mike, you mentioned the challenge of the preparation week, obviously with Trayvon, with some of the O-line injuries. I don't know if there's anything else which you're referencing there, but what goes into, as a team, responding to, or just dealing with those sort of things that pop up over late in the week?
Well, the biggest thing in this league is, you know, sustaining success, and that can be from one play to the next, from one series to the next, you know, from one week to the next. So, and I think you saw that in the first half. You know, when you're getting stops on defense, and you know when you're scoring touchdowns, I mean, there's a flow to it, and you could see early, as far as how they were playing us on defense, we were going to have to go the long way, which is fine, but we got to score. You know, we score touchdowns. You know, we may be still out there playing in overtime.
A couple players on offense, Gallup and Rico getting his first touchdown. Can you touch upon both those guys in the night they had?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can see those guys work every day. So, I mean, I get what the numbers were, you know, last week. And, you know, Rico, I've always loved his run style. You know, he runs angry. I mean, just look at the play he had there in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, it's no surprise, you know. So it was good to get those guys some touches.
There you go, Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy, brought to you by Windstar, home to over 8,500 of your favorite electronic games, more than 1,000 table game seats, and 1,400 luxury hotel rooms. It's always a good time at a Windstar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Coach talking about, you know, having 3 new starters in there for the offensive line, maybe adjusting his play calling, certainly took some stuff out of the game plan. But over the course of the game, as it flows and you're running the ball successfully and you're seeing these guys hold up, you know, should that deter your play calling as a coach?
I think the biggest thing, and I'll try and get to your question on this, but I think the biggest thing that affected the way he called this game was how the Cardinals played coverage. He said they were playing them high. Mm-hmm. And what he means is that their safeties generally play at a certain depth. And what had happened, and when you play your safeties high, you're literally trying to keep everything in front of you. You're not going to let anything. And this is the problem that I saw on tape with the Cardinals, was the separation. And when a Jalen Hyatt with the Giants makes a huge, when these chunk plays, they were terrified of giving up the big play. And so when you're just trying your best, and probably knowing Dak, they said, you know what, if we give him this look, he's going to throw the ball, he's probably going to throw the ball underneath. He's going to not try and take a shot down the field. And we were all kind of wondering, well, why did he not taking a shot down the field?
Sure.
I think that's what affected Mike McCarthy today, was that they got into a game where Arizona was like, we're not going to let you throw the ball down the field because we know damn good and well we can't defend it. And that's, I think, what the biggest – I don't think it was the offensive line that was his biggest worry today of calling plays. I think it was what Arizona was – and we always talk about this. Coaches always use this. Now everybody can watch the All-22 if you want.
Well, especially
you can see how deep their safeties were playing.
Well, and if it was something that certainly it limited the Cowboys' offense, and Bill Belichick's going to see that next week. Your next opponent in New England.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll have. I know Bobby Belt and I always talk about this number. It's well over almost 1,900 snaps where the Cowboys have yet to play all 5 of their starters. With. So hopefully that will change this week. You never know with these injuries, especially the hamstring things. Those types of.
And I hear you.
But that's what I'm saying with Belichick. With that offensive line, with your 5 guys, maybe there's some things you feel a little bit more confident about. But you're right, Belichick. With Matthew Judon, and there's going to be some issues, but
no question.
I just feel like though that McCarthy got affected today because of the way the look was, for what he was getting.
Which to me, and I understand, and I'm glad that he was honest with us about that. But it is a little bit surprising, and I think it goes to exactly what Brad was talking about. You got out-coached.
Absolutely,
as a play caller, what is your answer to counter that?
Yes.
To try and dictate a change in coverage for Arizona. Right. You've got to have an answer for that.
Right.
You can't just they're playing too high.
I know going into this game, I felt like that where you attacked Arizona was in the middle of the defense. And I mean the middle because of how aggressive their linebackers play up and their safeties play back. And so to me, that's where I feel like that when we watch the All-22, where it was their space in the secondary. You can't see that on the TV copy. You could see it when you're sitting at the game.
Right.
I mean, I could have sat there and said, my gosh, they're playing their safeties really deep here. You got to find a way to throw the ball and work the middle of the field.
And it's like the one play that I can think of. You had the slant to Gallup. You had the third down maybe to Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
And there were
some big runs.
So there probably was some holes open. I will say, credit to Arizona. I think defensively they covered really well today. I mean, a lot of the times when they did show us the backfield on replays on the TV copy, there wasn't a lot of guys open. The separation definitely was weaker today than it had been the previous 2 weeks.
Yep. You're right about that.
All right, a lot more to get to. We got your calls, 877-881-1053, 877-881-1053. Of course, Dak Prescott. We'll hear from your quarterback as well. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Welcome to Whataburger. What can I get you today?
To Moore, coming through the secondary, to the 20, Moore to the 10, Moore to the house. Arizona touchdown. And the Cardinals are blowing the Cowboys up.
28-16, Cardinals did indeed get that win. Big-time touchdown run there for the Cardinals as Rondale Moore went 45 yards up the gut. And that was just part of their 222 rushing yards today against the Cowboys. As Tony Pollard had a good game, 23 carries, 122 yards on the ground for him. So the Cowboys were able to get the ground game going as well in the second half, but they could not stop Arizona in that first half as they fall to go to 2-1 on the season. Just heard from Mike McCarthy, and essentially without admitting it, he did indeed get out-coached today by Jonathan Gannon, and kudos to Arizona and their defense. Didn't love what we heard there from Coach. We'll hear from the quarterback here momentarily. 877-881-1053 is the number to call and the number to text. I do want to hit the phones again. We've got Iran on line 1 from Dallas. How you doing, sir? You're on with Zach Wolchuk and the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus.
How you guys doing?
Doing well, man. How are you?
I'm okay. So I'm going to do something that I know a lot of most Cowboys fans that call into the show won't do. And the first one obviously didn't. This game was lost by a lot of things. Dak Prescott wasn't one of them. Dak could have played better. No doubt about it. Dak could have played better. We need him to play better. But when he threw that interception, the score was 26-15. We were already getting the hell beat out of us. Okay? The defense couldn't stop a cold. They couldn't. They gave up over 200 plus yards rushing. That's what we lost. We lost from over 12 penalties. That's how we lost. We lost because we got our heads caved in, not because Dak Prescott didn't do his job. Dak could have played better. Yes, I'm not doing nothing for
But
Dak.
I don't think anybody's completely blaming Dak for this. I don't think anybody that's talked. I think you're preempting here, or you're trying to prevent people from calling in and blaming it on Dak, and I don't think anybody's doing that. The interception was bad. And I'm going to say this. He has got to do a better job down there. When I worry about Dak's interceptions are the ones where he doesn't see the defender. He didn't see White there. He just didn't see him, and he threw it. Now, again, nobody's here blaming Dak, but that was one play in the game. If you find a way to score there, then maybe you could do something a little bit different.
I do have a question because Michael Gallup finally showed up. I've been missing him. Since for about 2 years. I've been missing him.
Yeah.
But we run the West Coast offense. And the last time I saw the West Coast offense just kill was Joe. I'm about to tell my age. Joe Montana throwing to John Taylor and Jerry Rice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I saw a lot of? They ran a lot of slants. Why don't we run slants?
Well,
why don't we run?
They do. That's some of the big plays they made today were slants. The Michael Gallup's long catch was a slant.
Sure was.
But in the red zone, that's what I'm talking about. If we can't run it in the red zone.
Well, it's a little bit different because the field shrinks on you there too. So what you're doing is you got safety standing right there at the line of scrimmage. You're going to not throw a slant into a safety or a linebacker standing right there.
Right. It has to be a way, because obviously when we got in the red zone a couple, last year and beyond, we gave it to 21.
Or you threw the ball to Dalton Schultz.
You know who I want to see the ball? Who I want to see get the ball today? Get the ball more in the red zone.
Yeah.
The second coming of Barber, Rico Dowdle.
Rico.
Give him the ball.
Okay.
Yeah, Rico had probably his best game as a pro today.
Can I say we're not blaming Dak here? I don't think anybody's. I think that Dak was part of the loss today.
Dak was part of the problem.
And now I'll give you an opportunity. Do you want to say that that he should have, with everything that was going on? And I'll say this: what I blame is this team does not handle adversity well.
You're right.
That's what I'll blame. Like when and I hate to say that you're a front runner when things are okay and things are great, that you're everything's great and fine and dandy and we're going to be front runners. They didn't handle, the coaching staff didn't handle the injuries well this week. They didn't handle the news very well of Diggs. The team played like they were feeling sorry for themselves.
Yeah.
That's the biggest concern I have is not how they got their ass kicked. It's how they didn't handle the adversity that they were dealt today. I think the offensive line, the young guys,
stepped up.
I think they handled it, but I don't think anybody else handled it very well.
I agree. And look, I get it. And I was going back and forth with somebody on the text line, 877-881-1053. But, yes, there were holding penalties. Now you're at 1st and 20. Is that on some of these new guys in the offensive line? How can you say they played well? How many times did that happen? Yeah, they didn't. It wasn't great. It wasn't perfect.
No, I mean,
but they played well enough for you to be able to get a win in Arizona today.
As many trips as you made in the red zone, that's where if you want to blame Dak Prescott, and I know the caller was trying to preempt a strike by everybody. Oh, well, it's Dak's fault. So I'll ask you though. I mean, you're thinking Dak has to play better, right?
I think Dak needed to play better today.
I
do. He's
find a way to lift up.
Exactly. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Your defense essentially was out of this world good the first 2 weeks to where you didn't have to perform. Today, your defense didn't come out ready to play.
And they needed you.
So when you talk about complimentary football, that's when I need to look at my offense. Yeah. I need to look at my quarterback who's in year 8.
Head coach.
And the head coach, who is your play caller as well.
Yeah.
You've now got to lift your defense.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they weren't able to do that today.
That's a good point.
So Dak deserves blame for that 100%. Is he the sole reason you lost?
Not at all.
No. And there's always going to be people that just don't like Dak Prescott, like Robert, and don't believe in him. And that's totally fine. I'm not going to say Dak's the reason you lost solely. He certainly didn't help it today, and I would have loved to see more from him. I needed more from my quarterback today. When my defense didn't have it, I need you to be better than 1 for 5 in the red zone. I need you to go on the road against an inferior opponent and a quarterback on the other side in Josh Dobbs and find a way to get that win. That's what you needed from Dak today.
Agree.
And unfortunately, he didn't do it.
Nope, you're right. But he's not the sole reason.
He's not the sole reason.
Right.
Dak didn't have the 13 penalties today.
Right.
Dak didn't give up 222 yards on the ground today.
Right.
Dak didn't give up the big passing touchdown or the big passing play where Malik Hooker seemed like he was out of position. We don't know for sure what happened there.
I think Malik Hooker was out of position.
Then they get the ball. So the lack of pass rush that was fantastic, where was that today, right? So, no, all of that wasn't on 4, but I certainly would have liked to have had Dak Prescott perform better, and maybe they would have had a different end result. I think everybody deserves blame, including the coaching staff who got their butts whooped today. All right, let's go out to our buddy Scott in Jersey. Scott, you're on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I just want to say, hey, Bryan, a great pregame show. Always love it. I listen to the whole thing. I appreciate everything you say. I listen to you all week, so that has nothing to do with it. It's just 2 things, though, tonight. So sometimes your offense has to pick up your defense, and your defense has to pick up your offense. Tonight, neither one of them happened. And we've taught you. You said it earlier, Bryan, that I think we were outcoached. So Dan Quinn, I think for the first time I've been watching, I think he was outcoached tonight. They knew exactly where to. Don't worry about that. That's the cup I just dropped.
No worries.
They knew what we were doing. The offense outplayed our defense all night long, and they put Parsons where they wanted to put Parsons. We didn't put Parsons where we wanted to. They put him where they were because he was a non-factor, and it's going to happen occasionally. But the thing is, I'm saying tonight is, like, when our defense is down, our offense tonight really didn't pick it up. They did great, but it was a little coaching, and I think it was offense tonight. I do appreciate you taking my call. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you next week, all right?
Appreciate you, Scott. Thank you so much, man. Have a good rest of your Sunday night. And it is Sunday. I was so upset about this loss. I think I said Saturday evening earlier, and I apologize for that. I'm not on my A game either, just like the Cowboys weren't today. So we're all a bunch of losers. A 28-16 drubbing. Let's go out to Dominic in Arlington, line 3. Dominic, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, guys, man. I just want to be honest with y'all. I'm going to be brutally honest. I'm not going to lie, I blame Dak. Let's be real about this, because the Cardinals didn't have they starting defense. Not all of them. And let's imagine if the Cardinals would have had their starting defense, Dak would have thrown at least 3 interceptions. Let's be real. Bro, take too many chances down the field instead of dumping the ball off when he needs to dump the ball off. And Mike McCarthy was steady up and down with the plays. And on plays where he needed to run, he kept putting the ball in Dak's hands, knowing Dak was struggling. And Dak was acting scary. He was acting scary most of the game. Let's be real. You can see it in the man's eyes that when he threw that interception in the end zone and he went and Mike McCarthy was, man, come on now. I was lost for words with that. Like you cannot see it with three people right there around that man when you could have just dumped the ball off to Pollard and Pollard was right there. Instead, you want to steady try to force the ball in our defense. Oh my God. Oh my! I can now. What do we draft Mozzie for? Like I can see now. If we have a first round draft pick next year, I can see we drafting another defensive lineman, straight like either defensive lineman or another cornerback.
Yeah, I appreciate the call, Dominic. I feel like Dak dunked it and checked it down the majority of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't disagree more with your take there, Dom. I don't think Dak pushed the ball down the field. That's something Bryan and I were talking about the entire time. When we studied the Cardinals this week leading up to the game, Bryan pointed it out, and I went back and watched their first two games. Their corners are horrible.
Yeah.
You get them in double moves. You can get them down the field.
Yeah.
And if they get isolated in single coverage, but that's exactly what McCarthy said. They wanted to limit the big play. They played deep with their safeties, and clearly that did worry Dak to where he was checking it down underneath and playing safe, right? Just take what the defense is giving you. I think any chances that for the most part they did go downfield, it worked in their benefit. So I don't know. I mean, I hear you. I'm down to, if you want to blame Dak, I like I just said, Dak deserves blame as well. I don't think it was a lack of throwing the ball down the field necessarily there. I think he did go underneath to the tight ends quite a bit. You saw him check it down to Rico Dowdle. The screen pass finally worked to Rico Dowdle as well. All right, your call is brought to you by the National Medal of Honor Museum. Join the mission at MAOHmuseum.org and AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to get to more of your calls and texts. The one thing I wanted to ask you about, though, Bryan, and specifically we saw it on that one touchdown throw where it's crossing the field on Stephon Gilmore. Gilmore was the big acquisition, and he was able to play opposite of Trayvon Diggs. Yeah. Now he's moving into your number one role.
Right.
The one thing that I think maybe at this stage of his career
can't run
against speedy receivers.
Yeah. Can't his ability, he was one of the, at one time in his life, he could really elite when it came to closing on the ball, and he could still get in position, but he doesn't have the ability to burst like he once did. And it's, but trust me, I'd rather have him out there than Anthony Brown. I'm just, saying that. And I think he's an upgrade there. I think he's smart. I think he knows how to play in position. But if you can get him on the move, that seems to be where he'll struggle a little bit because he doesn't have that elite burst that he once did. So that clearly is an issue for him.
Yeah. And that's something to watch moving forward. All right.
Still a really good player, though. But
he's been fantastic.
He just his ability just to close like he once did. I don't think it's by him now.
Yeah. All right. More of your calls and texts, 877-881-1053. Appreciate the interaction. Love the feedback. Love you guys being a part of the postgame show as well. We're here from Dak Prescott on the other side. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
I'm Dak Prescott.
Dobbs with a play fake, half roll to the left. They're nowhere near him. Oh, he's got a man all alone. Down to the 45, it's Wilson. A little fake on Hooker to the 30, to the 25, to the 15, inside the 10.
28-16, Cardinals beat the Cowboys. Certainly a lot of blame to go around in this one, and we're covering all the angles here when it comes to the play calling, the penalties, the run defense, the red zone issues. Really simply just got outplayed and outcoached today. That's what it comes down to. And how do the Cowboys bounce back? The best teams will find a way to overcome it. You got Bill Belichick and the Patriots and your old friend Ezekiel Elliott coming into town next week at AT&T Stadium. So we'll see how the Cowboys
Zeke in this run defense, huh?
Yeah, well, and Zeke had 80 yards today rushing against the Jets, so I'm sure he's
pretty good run defense.
Pretty excited, for that homecoming, no question about that.
Yeah.
Dak today, and I'm sure we're always going to have a lot of Dak conversations, win or lose, but your quarterback took the podium after the loss, and here's what Dak had to say.
Yeah, I mean, we just didn't score. Simple as that. Took a shot at the end zone. I got to get that throw out there in front of MG. Thought we got the call. Obviously, the refs got together, didn't give it to us, and then just from there, I got to make that third down throw. I got to make the throw some way, put it over him, maybe just scramble and not go there with it. But felt like we needed to play there, try to put it past the backers there. He made a great catch.
Quick follow-up on that penalty. Talk a little bit about the challenge of having to try to overcome as many penalties as was thrown against you guys, especially on the road.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. As you just put it, the penalties plus being on the roads are never easy. Dug ourselves into some holes on some different drives. We're able to overcome some of them. But even when you're able to overcome them, I think that's just you're making it harder on yourself and you're taking yourself out of that rhythm. And it was tough. It was tough, and obviously we couldn't overcome it and didn't come away with what we wanted to.
Nick Harris, Cowboys.com. What's kind of your perspective on the red zone struggles as far as getting into the end zone?
Yeah, we've got to do better. Just as a team, as a unit, myself, got to make some throws, maybe use my feet more. Obviously, that's an area that we haven't been good in these last 2 weeks. And even with the win last week, that was the sore spot in the win. And obviously, look at this loss. Moved the ball up and down the field and just couldn't score. And so that's your reason for this loss. And so we've all got to get back to the drawing board. Starts with me and making some throws and making some plays, as I said, with my feet and trying to get it done.
On the final interception, what happened there? What did you see and what was supposed to happen there, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, Cook says boom, boom, getting back behind the backer. Backer did a good job of playing it, tried to look him away, and then just put it by his ear. I knew it was going to be a tough throw. At that moment, tried to make the throw. Obviously, the backer made a great play. Just tried to put it behind his ear, not thinking I had enough space to just get it up and down in the back. But, I got to live with that.
Michael Gelkin, Dallas Morning News. Mike mentioned that once you guys knew what the situation was on the O-line, that there were some late-night changes, morning changes to things. He thought you handled it really well. How much changed? Like, what was different from the original plan?
Yeah, just adding a few more quick games, getting the ball out of my hands, some movements, just trying, obviously, to protect those guys as well. You know what I mean? Not put them in the situation where we're just dropping back over and over. But, just benefits to our playmakers as well, just trying to get the ball into their hands.
How did you feel those three guys, two of them making their first NFL starts?
Yeah, they fought their ass off. I thought they did a great job. Gave me enough time, allowed us to, as I said, move the ball up and down the field, and we didn't convert in the red zone. That's the story of this game, period.
Dak Prescott, The Athletic. You haven't thrown a touchdown yet to a receiver this season. Is there anything to that? I mean, what do you see as the reason for that?
Just hadn't done it. You can go to the one of Michael Gallup. I've got to make that throw, get it out there in front of him a little bit earlier. The one to CD's close. Would like the call or like CD, you know what I'm saying? Would like to get the call on that one as well. But, we're taking attempts. We've just got to convert. Simple as that. Simple as that. Don't have an answer for you.
Okay. First game, 40-0. Second game, 30-10. You, the coaching staff, are keen on remaining even keel, not getting too high, not getting too low. Talk about the message coming out of a game like this to refocus and reset for the Patriots.
Yeah, we're staying in the moment. That's who we are. That's who this team is. This was a humbling loss in that sense. Obviously, we've had a lot of adversity just throughout the week. It wasn't easy. Obviously, it wasn't easy. Nobody's making excuses. We thought we had a great opportunity to come in here, even with the adversity, and get a win, and we didn't. So, obviously, every week you've got to reset and you've got to refocus. And honestly, it's a little bit easier after a loss. So there's not going to be any worries about that. Obviously, myself, the coaching staff, the players, the way that we attack the preparation, and then come in tomorrow ready to work.
That ball to Gallup, where there was a flag initially, and it was waved off. Michael felt like the defender didn't play the ball. What was your perspective even before the throw, and then just the way that was ruled?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good call. I thought we were going to get exactly what we got. As I said, I'm going to put it on myself and take the game out of the ref's hands. I got to make the better pass, put a better pass out there, try to get it out in front of him. But hell, I mean, Michael had the best, MG had the best perspective of that throw and what that was and how the defender played it. But when the guy's back's turned to me and he never looks back, I mean, it's simple as that.
Well, this is a wake-up call for you guys. You guys were on top of the world the first 2 games. You know, everybody's singing your praises, you know.
Y'all put us on top of the world. We know who we are, and in that same sense, I'm sure the media got what they wanted. For us, it hadn't been but one undefeated team in this league, ever. So, yeah, it sucks. It's humbling, but to say it's a wake-up call, we knew we had a lot of adversity, and we just didn't get it done. And I think it just goes back to myself, the offense, and the red zone. So, I mean, we get better at there, we win this game, but we've got to fix that area, period.
Dak Prescott after a 28-16 loss, absolutely. Red zone does need to get fixed. You're not going to win against good opponents or really just any team going 1 for 5 in the red zone every week. You got to cash in for touchdowns and not field goals. What else stood out to you there from Dak?
No, he's always going to stand up there and he's going to take the heat for it. You know, he's the one guy that he does have to stand up there, and you know everybody else is in the locker room. Maybe they get questions, but he's the one guy up there with all the cameras rolling, and he's always going to, he's going to take it that way. That's that's the way that he operates, and I applaud him for doing that. But there's some things that they're going to have to get better at, and they cannot let a defense just take them away by, if that's the case, of playing safeties high. Or, for them. And, the play call, I think Mike McCarthy, this was the first, there was some, in week 1, they really didn't need Dak. The defense, the last couple of weeks, the defense has been so good. Dak was good last week in the game. Offense was good in the game, held the ball for a long time. But this was one of those times where they completely got out schemed, and the execution of what they were trying to do. I hate to say that they felt like that because they started 3 young guys, 2 guys getting their first start, that they were that paralyzed with their offensive game plan. I kind of felt like as the game wore on, I know Dak had to move around and kind of buy a little time here and there, but man, if you're calling a game because you're terrified of TJ Bass and Hoffman,
it's rather pathetic and a terrible excuse.
Well, and we always talk about with coaches, and if they see the flow of the game, if they see the flow that, like, hey man, we're kind of blocking these guys up, we're moving the ball on these guys. Yeah, we maybe we could do a little bit more here. It's kind of like, it reminds me of the first time that Terrence Steele ever started against the Los Angeles Chargers, and he was blocking Joey Bosa. And all of a sudden you're just like going, wow, well, we got a good plan here today. We're kind of, he's handling him. We're not getting killed on the edge. And, you're able to take some chances. I didn't think it's a particularly great day for Mike McCarthy calling plays.
No, and it clearly wasn't.
But hey, the defense was bad today too in the first half for sure. But that was, I think Mike McCarthy going back, he's gonna go back and look at his play card, and he's gonna match it up with what he sees on tape, and he's probably gonna be sick about some of the calls he made.
Yeah, I'm sure he will, because maybe it just gets burned into your mind as a coach. Just trying to put myself in coach's shoes here, and you're thinking, okay, I got 3 new starters along the line. I got a guard and a center making their first career start. But you're right. You go about the flow of the game.
Yeah,
those linemen got better as the game went on.
Yeah, if you're really struggling up front, much like we talked about with that Arizona game the Atlanta game where Chaz Green had no shot, and the Cowboys just kept on and on and on and on, and not realizing, to get him help or try a different game plan or try to do something different. I kind of felt like that, this young line was holding up. They were holding their own. You ran the ball well enough. You could have done some things, but Mike just, it seemed like he kind of went into a little bit of a shell with his play calling when thinking about these young guys and maybe he was worried about them up front.
877-881-1053. Let's go back out to the phones. Let's hit line 4 here. Bill in Fort Worth. Bill, how you doing, sir? You're with Zach Wolchuk and the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus.
Hey guys, how's it going? One of my biggest things is Tyron Smith suited up and he didn't get put into the game. I understand the offensive line held their own, but I still think it was in Dak Prescott's head and Mike McCarthy's head.
No question.
In the play status. But, Bryan, I have a question for you. Do you think that with all the media talk and everything with the Cowboys being so sack hungry, do you think that we get that into our heads and then just forget gap discipline?
I think there clearly are some times where they're so interested in getting up the field. In Arizona during the week, I know on several different platforms I talked about pin and pulls and things like that. This really played into the way that Arizona runs their blocking schemes gives the Cowboys, to me, a lot of problems because you're not asking these offensive linemen to block just one-on-one. You're shielding and then getting guys in space, and they're so aggressive, especially in the running game. The quarterbacks that had success running the ball against the Cowboys have been because when they drop back and the discipline you talk about is to get up the field and you get 3 guys trapped on one side of the center and now there's a gap or a lane and then those quarterbacks take off. Mm-hmm. But the way that Arizona, the physicality that they ran the ball today was super impressive. But I love it when you pin and pull because you're not asking linemen to be great. They just have to shield and get in the way. And then if you could get guys up on the second level, you saw what happened today, getting guys up on the second level.
Oh, man.
Leighton Vander Esch struggled. Clark struggled.
I'm glad you brought that up because we're getting a lot of texts about the linebacker play. Overall, your thoughts.
Well,
and should they look to add somebody?
The front seven was just not – it just wasn't as good enough. For 2 weeks, they'd been really, really good, but they had not played a team. And a lot of this has to do with your offense. When your offense puts up a lot of points, you make opponents become one-dimensional. Arizona was in control of this game from the jump.
Yep, they led throughout the game. First time the Cowboys had trailed.
Yeah, so to me, that was the big thing. Arizona could stay in their game plan, pin and pull, run downhill. They use the creativity that they used. Rondale Moore, and there's a lot of really positive things that Arizona did, but they'd shown those things on tape. Dallas should have been ready for him. This is not like Arizona threw out a complete surprise. I'm just telling you, things that I saw for 2 games, I'm sure the Cowboys watched the same tape I do. They should have known exactly what was about to happen to them.
And, we got a comment from the text, the 856, Gannon came from Philly, obviously, knows the Cowboys well. But outside, typically the Cowboys put up numbers on the Eagles' defense. Christmas Eve last year.
Always have.
They were fantastic. So I don't know if it was Jonathan Gannon necessarily having the secret sauce. The Cowboys clearly, just listening from what Dak and McCarthy said, they kind of had their game plan and they just basically played to what the Cardinals were doing defensively and didn't adjust.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there was – I think that the fact that the Cowboys – had all those changes on the offensive front spooked Mike McCarthy in his game plan.
And probably the quarterback as well. And maybe that's why you saw him be a little gun shy. Anytime Dak double pumps there, he throws, pulls the ball back. You know that's not going to be successful.
And give Arizona some credit. They might have had guys covered too.
Yeah, the separation will be interesting to see.
You can't see it on the TV copies.
Right.
But when you're at the game, it's a little bit different story. You can see separation. But Brandon Cooks. Why did I feel like Brandon Cooks was just not a factor today?
I feel the same.
I felt like everything was kind of underneath, and there wasn't anything getting him on the move. CeeDee Lamb. The slants were a good play today, but they just didn't seem like that they were in real good rhythm, play calling and with their execution.
And the entire team really just came out flat. You just didn't see that same energy from the defense at all. And the defense certainly, you got to put on your heels that way. Offense is constantly trying to play catch up. And then the penalties were just an absolute backbreaker as well. Postgame show brought to you by AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and Blockchain. Trust the team at blockchain.com to make buying, selling, and trading crypto easy. Play smarter, not harder with blockchain.com. We will get to more of your calls and texts. We'll also hear from Tony Pollard, Malik Hooker, and more. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas, right here at home.
Touchdown, Arizona.
28-16, Cardinals get the win over the Cowboys. Cowboys 2-1 now, and they'll look to get back in the win column next week. Did get a question from the 469 who has been listening apparently to the whole post, but I guess missed this. But you guys love to criticize McCarthy, but I haven't once heard Bryan criticize Dan Quinn. Believe you did earlier, Bryan.
That's right.
You did.
Yep.
Yeah, you
did. I believe I said.
You sure did.
I said Dan Quinn's got to wear this one.
Absolutely.
That
The
was my
defense
quote.
came out and laid an egg. I mean, they really did. The first half, I was stunned. I mean, this defense had looked like the best in football, historically could be an all-time great, and they just came out and were a shell of themselves today.
Yeah, it didn't. It's a team that traditionally does not allow those chunk plays. Under Dan Quinn, with Mike Nolan, it was an every game occurrence, but with Dan Quinn, there's those big chunk plays, those explosive plays they talk about. He gave up way too many of them today. He had a bad day at the office.
He did.
So did his defense.
And the one thing about DQ through his tenure here, though, is he usually is pretty good about fixing some of this.
He'll wear it.
And he absolutely will. But certainly just big chunk plays on the ground and in the passing game as well. And hopefully moving forward. I mean, we got a lot of questions about Mozzie as well on the text, 877-881-1053. But I think at that position, that's always tough to come away just from like naked eye watching the game. You've got to definitely study the All-22, which I know you will do tomorrow.
I will. I always take a peek at Mozzie because I can't tell on the TV copy. I can tell when I'm at the stadium. I can take my glasses and watch him, but I can't tell you. I think overall, I think their fits were bad as a front seven. Like I said, Kearse wasn't very good today. Hooker wasn't very good today.
Linebackers were bad.
They had some completions on your corners. It was just the 11 that showed up, and the others that helped the 11 weren't very good. And
Osa Digizua is a guy that I thought was brilliant through 2 weeks, and he had one splash play on the run in the first half.
Yeah.
Otherwise, didn't see much of Osa. Didn't get much of Sam Williams.
I would block the Cowboys this way every time. I would if the way that Arizona runs the football is the way the way to play Micah Parsons is absolutely what I would do if I was another team playing the Cowboys.
Yeah.
The pin and pull scheme is great, especially when you're not very good up front in certain spots.
Well, and to your point, I feel like teams are going to until they prove they can stop it.
Yeah. Teams just have not had the chance to run on Dallas because they haven't been committed to it because Dallas's offense finds a way to score points.
Yeah.
Or special teams get you points. So yeah, this was there was nothing to me, there was nothing unexpected about this game. When I watched it, I'm like, if you could see what Arizona's really good at and tried to talk about it all week. And they were able to pull it off. The Cowboys, they didn't do a very good job of handling that. Didn't handle the adversity and didn't do a very good job of showing up and playing today on defense, especially in the first half.
All right, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
We'll go back out to the phone lines here, of course, brought to you by Blockchain. You don't need a complicated play to bring it into the end zone. That's why you should trust the team at Blockchain.com to make buying, selling, and trading crypto easy. Play smarter, not harder with Blockchain.com. Disappointing loss, of course, and, this is Cowboys therapy for all of us. We want you to vent, and we want to be your sounding board. Let's head out to Line 5, Randy in California. Randy, you're on with Zach Wolchuk and the Super Bowl winning scout, the man, the myth, the legend, Bryan Broaddus.
Always. Thank you, guys. I just want to say a couple of things, probably give you guys some talking points. I think this loss was biggest on the coaching, absolutely, and undisciplined with all the penalties. I think that the biggest – I know everyone's going to talk about, like, Dak missing or throwing that interception. I think the biggest miss he had was that Gallup touchdown, where Gallup won his route for an easy touchdown, but threw it underneath. I would like to see this offense with Mike McCarthy, all these like 3-yard routes, short routes, and screens. I would like to see him open it up more and let him rip it. I know we had John Kitna as a QB coach in 2019 who told Dak to rip it, and he had one of his best statistical seasons.
Yeah, but
I would like that a little bit more.
Yeah, let me tell you this, though. Welcome to the Texas Coast offense.
Yeah.
This is what this is. This
Underneath,
is underneath, short, quick
game.
passing. I mean, that's what it is. It's slants. It's trying to get the ball to the tight end. I was surprised that they didn't try and throw more, but Arizona obviously was worried about their corners because of the way they played their safeties. But if you want to say rip it, the rip it was Kellen Moore. That's rip it. You know, that's trying to take chances, and they feel like that, and not that every interception was his fault, but they're trying to limit your quarterback from making mistakes.
Yeah, they are.
What they're trying to do.
They sure are. And you bring up Kellen Moore, and I've seen a lot of this because, I mean, that'll be the conversation, right? People are going to track what's going on with L.A. and the Chargers.
I think the red zone offense myself, I think that they need to find – last year it was like a Dalton Schultz.
Yeah.
And last year it was a Ezekiel Elliott. You've got some runners. You got some runners that are capable, but you don't have that one guy yet that's getting open. You don't have that Dalton Schultz that's finding space, you know, in the red zone.
It was certainly a strength. He just had kind of a feel for where to go, and maybe
Jason Witten was the same way.
Yeah, and maybe Jake Ferguson. And credit for I mean, to me, every time he catches a ball, he's making the first guy miss, which is something Dalton Schultz didn't do. But yes, that's an area of his game. Maybe in the red zone, he becomes a little bit of a safety blanket for Dak. Maybe it's a Schoon maker. You know, we saw Schooney catch his first career touchdown last week in the red zone for one of their red zone trips. But yes, so far in 2023, the Chargers are 8th in the NFL in red zone efficiency. Cowboys at 27th. It doesn't, to me, change the fact
probably going to go lower now. Unless you know somebody else is.
But
struggling with
to
that.
me, it doesn't change the fact that you needed to make a change on offense. I get it. Statistically, the Cowboys' offense was brilliant under Kellen Moore, but when you needed them most in the postseason, they failed. So I'm not going to be the hindsight 2020 guy and wonder what's Kellen Moore doing over there. They made the move. Kellen Moore isn't coming back, and I'm totally fine with it, and I'm going to stand by everything and how I felt the entire offseason.
What are they? Are they now 3 of 10 in the red zone last 2 weeks?
The last 2 weeks, they
2 of 5.
Were
they 2 of 5 last week?
Last week they were 2 of 5,
and then
today
1 of
they
5.
were 1 of 5. So
I think I got my numbers right.
And I think for the season they've scored 6 times in the red zone.
Yeah,
they had 3 against the Giants. All right, let's go back out to the phones. We've got Brad in Lubbock. Brad, you're up next here on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
Good evening, guys. I appreciate y'all being out there, and thank you for taking a call. I was calling. I wanted to see what y'all's thought process of Edoga taking and moving him back to guard where he was subbing for Tyler Smith last week, last 2 weeks, and putting Tyler Smith back in tackle, and see if that would have helped anything on the offensive line.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I thought when I started to hear that all the injuries and guys were going to sit, some people were texting me and go, how do you think this is going to play? And what they probably thought was that Tyler Smith worked all week at guard, and he's been at guard all training camp.
Yeah.
And so they were not interested in moving him back out to tackle. It surprised me a little bit, because the one thing that I saw from Edoga, especially at right tackle in training camp, I just didn't see it. I just did not see it. Now, we have to grade these guys on grade all 65 plays, but there were times where Edoga was clearly overmatched. And maybe having him at guard would have been the best thing to have.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that, having Tyler, and I think Tyler just showed such an ability to, even though if he's not getting those reps in practice, to be able to switch and play both positions.
Yeah, he played. Remember last year's rookie year, he was at guard all camp as well.
And then literally the first week before the season, here you go. Start left tackle.
Go start left tackle.
Yeah. So to me, it's like, I hear everything you're saying. If Edoga is just better at the guard spot, I think I would have left him there and played Tyler Smith at tackle. But hopefully next week it's not a problem, and we can finally get this starting 5 together for the first time all year.
I think the last time that happened, I was 38 years old. Now I'm 59. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. 817, got to start getting Lipke involved more in the red zone.
You know what? I'll tell you what. Lipke did a nice job of running the football. Good toughness there. He catches the ball well, and he's developing as a blocker. That's something at North Dakota State. He was that one-back runner we talk about. But I'll tell you what, the guy has done a really nice job with the opportunities that he's been presented with.
And, we talked about the tight ends there briefly, but James reached out on X, formerly known as Twitter. Tight end group, the three guys have been a little underwhelming this year so far. What do you think overall about the tight end group?
Well, yeah, that's where the red zone stuff could very well be. We saw stuff at camp that gave us some encouragement. I know there were a couple of different times when those 2-point plays we were talking about, those were done from, around the 2-yard line, and there was motion, there was guys that were clean, it was some creativity to it. Maybe it's something that they just absolutely don't want to show right now. I don't know why if you're struggling down there, but I felt like that these tight ends would do a little bit more, gaining some separation, and we haven't seen it like I kind of thought it would be with Ferguson. Like you say, Ferguson catches the ball, makes the first guy miss. I mean, I appreciate the run after catch with him. Hendershot, not much there. Schoonmaker was not a factor today at all. And he had the one pass to him, and I think it was a drop, or or it was knocked away. But the tight ends, just other than Ferguson, I just don't. Today was just not their day.
No, it certainly wasn't. Let's go back out to the phones. We've got Clint, line 7, Clint in Garland. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Not well, obviously. Two things. I'm going to make one question to Bryan, and then I've got a statement, and I'll hang up and listen.
Do your statement first, if you could.
Statement first?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I 85% put this on McCarthy.
Okay.
My reasoning behind it is this. The great elite coaches always will kind of burn out and have to take a couple of years away to re-energize themselves, because these guys are coddled and they're divas. You have to stay on them every minute, every day, every practice, constantly. And that's one of the things I've always read that kind of burns out the Cowers and the Parcellses and people like that. Now, there are people like Belichick who can stay forever because it's what they do, but some guys do burn out. We know that. That's my issue with McCarthy. This team was flat. They were not ready. They were not emotionally ready. They were not physically ready. They were not mentally ready. They came out, and it was just like they hit the snooze button. They at no point never got anything where you say, okay, you feel like something's going here. Undisciplined with the penalties. The play calling to me felt like, and I've heard you guys kind of touch on this, where, were they not confident in the offensive line, and that played with their head. I agree with that, but there's also a part of me that feels like, was McCarthy worried about throwing the ball down the field when he saw the high coverage?
Yeah,
he clearly was.
He clearly was. Yeah, he clearly was.
About his quarterback, he's like, my quarterback makes mistakes, and that's not good for the coach to feel like I'm not confident in the quarterback. And my question is, Bryan, when you see the All-22, I know you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
but do you think that they ran some of the Lovie Smith stuff? Because it seems like Houston had the same thing last year in the Houston game, the Texan game, where the Texans kind of gave thing where Dak was hold the ball. I don't know where to throw it, and I'll hang up and listen.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I appreciate your comments and question. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to sitting down and watching, seeing where these safeties really played and was there separation. And I do feel there was a couple of things. I think I think that the whole thing with the offensive line was a big worry for this group going into the game. And so they probably obviously did some things in the game plan that they took out that they didn't want to do. Now, let's be honest though, Martin didn't practice the whole week, right? Mm-hmm. So, and Broaddus was on Thursday, right? And then Tyron Smith was
showed up yesterday, I believe.
Yeah, or maybe even a Friday. So I don't know. I can't. But once you saw that your guys were holding up, you could say, okay, maybe we could do a little bit more of this. Maybe we could try a little bit more of this. I just think that, what really bothered me is when the Cowboys got down there with 5 minutes left in the game and McCarthy just kept running the ball.
Well, and and it was just in the red zone. It's a first down run.
And I was just like, I was going, man, you've got to get, you're down you're down 2 scores. You've got to find a way to get this in now.
And the tempo there,
and then your timeouts, and you got a 2-minute warning. It just took forever.
It did.
And I'm like, man, where is the sense of urgency here to get this thing in here and then try and get the ball back by using your timeouts and the 2-minute warning? It's like, nah. But that I felt like the coordinator had a bad day today at the office.
I think so as well. And
he might have been, and I'm not going to use the word scared, but he might have been
a little timid,
cautious.
Okay.
He might have been too cautious of what his offensive line's makeup was.
I want to hear from Jayron Kearse. We got some sound from him in the locker room. He's always very open and honest about his feelings. And, of course, we'll reflect with you as the Cowboys therapy session continues after a 28-16 loss to the Arizona Cardinals in Glendale. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Cowboys football.
their field goals to up 21-10 at the half.
Man, that 61-yard field goal was huge. It was 61 or 62?
61.
62.
62.
Yeah. And I think he kicked the laces.
He did.
I think he hit the laces, which
is
made
out, Dan.
Yeah,
we learned.
Man, that's crazy.
Gosh. We did get a text and a question that, no, I think the answer would be no to this. 214, do you think the Cowboys were resting their offensive line so that they were healthy for San Francisco?
No.
I don't think you can really be doing that and look 2 weeks ahead in the NFL. Like, the Cowboys have a gauntlet that's going to come up in the schedule in December.
Yeah.
It's very likely they look back at this loss. Excuse me, my voice is cracked there. This loss in Arizona to the Cardinals, and that ends up being like a Jacksonville game a year ago or a Green Bay game where it's like, man, you're jockeying for playoff positioning.
Sure.
And that was one we shouldn't have given up.
Yeah. In fact, that the New York Giants beat that team and you throttled the Giants, kind of one of those things. It seems very like, wow, what just happened? You're right though. You only get 17 of these. And when it comes to, we'll see what happens with Philadelphia tomorrow night in Tampa, right? Tampa was kind of like a team that everybody was thinking that they were jockeying for the first overall pick. They weren't going to be any good. They were going to be 0-2, and here they are 2-0. Maybe they'll play well for you tomorrow. And everybody in the division so far is lost. The Eagles playing tomorrow, so you'll look back on this one, and when it comes down to the division and it's one game to the good or one game to the bad, you could look back and say, yeah, this was one you probably should have went and got.
All right, Jayron Kearse, one of the team leaders on the defense, always love listening to him, and he's a guy that usually is a straight shooter and just says how he feels, wears his emotions on his sleeves. Let's hear from Jayron Kearse and his feelings after this loss to Arizona.
What can you make of the issues in that part of the game specifically?
I don't know, not until we sit and watch the film to see what exactly went wrong. But they ran a lot of pull schemes. Got downhill, didn't really attack us on the edge much. It was just a lot of downhill running with a lot of pull schemes, getting their linemen on our edge guys, me included when it came down to pullers, so but no more when we watched the film, but we weren't good enough, myself included. It was bad.
Was it something you didn't necessarily see on film coming in, or was it just you guys trying to execute and stop it?
We knew what type of game it was going to be. We definitely knew what type of game it was going to be, and it just came out, and I guess their will was stronger than ours, and it showed throughout the game. So.
There's Jayron Kearse afterwards, and he's right.
Yeah.
Their will was stronger than the Cowboys.
Pin and pull.
And
he told you, man.
It's a shame, man.
He told you. We were all week. We were talking about that. That's the scheme they're going to run. They had to be ready for it. They weren't. They physically got beat up front. They allowed Arizona with their offensive linemen, with their 12 personnel. The backs ran hard. They mixed up some things, putting Rondell Moore in the backfield. You weren't ready for that. He was right about how hard they run the ball downhill, but that's how Arizona plays. You knew going into this game it was going to be a physical game that way. The best chance that Arizona had to win this game was their ability to run the football. But they never looked back. It started with the opening drive with them. Heck, this thing could have been worse points-wise if you think about it. In fact, they missed a couple of 2-point conversions.
Yeah.
Oh, but pin and pull. I'd block the Cowboys that way every time.
No doubt.
And I would
Until you prove you can stop it, boys.
I would find ways like, okay, how do we handle not having to take these guys one-on-one? We'll shield them and we'll pull around and we'll get guys and we'll take your eyes to another area and But yeah, they physically got beat up.
Well, and it's sad because it's one area we know the Cowboys are trying to address. I mean, Stephen Jones has talked about it. They wanted to improve the run defense. You make the trade for Hankins last year. Certainly, it helped. The run defense numbers got better. You draft Mozzie Smith in the first round, and still you're seeing some of these issues. And a lot of it's the linebackers are not able to get off blocks.
No, I mean Clark wasn't good. Van Der Esch wasn't good. We'll see the all-22. That's always a great thing to say, but check on Monday and Tuesday when we have the opportunity to sit down and watch it, who really was out of place.
Yeah.
And it looked like, to me, it looked like that Arizona just did a great job of taking advantage of how aggressive you generally are getting up the field. But let's be honest, too. Having Mozzie Smith and Hankins, teams can run the ball on the edge. It's not all about inside runs. Just because you have two big mammoth guys inside, look where some of those that's why pin and pull works, because you don't have to take those guys on.
Yeah, and the one big play that they had went right into the opening gap where Fowler gets caught up field.
Right.
And they just run right in
between. They run right
there.
by him. They're so anxious getting up the field. Fowler, Sam Williams, Micah at times.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's it's a little bit different playing run defense when you have a lead.
Mm-hmm.
Because run defense, when you have a lead, you're not going to get a lot of runs. Teams are going to throw the ball. We've seen it the last 2 weeks. Arizona was just balanced in the way they played today. And when they needed a pass, you weren't good enough. You didn't get pressure, and you didn't find a way to cover their receivers down the field.
Let's head back out to the phones. A lot of you have been waiting patiently. 877-881-1053. Appreciate you always interacting with us here on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus. By the way, you can hear Bryan's All-22 film breakdown tomorrow, 2:40 on the flagship station, 105.3 The Fan with the G-Bag Nation. Let's go to line one, Maurice in Shreveport. You're on the Dallas Cowboys postgame show.
Well, guys, thank you for all that you do. You do such a great job with this here. I'm sitting here so baffled right now because the defense looks like, did we play something totally different since Trayvon is not in the game? It's kind of hard to see.
No.
We didn't?
No, you really not that I could tell. I just said this earlier, and I know you were probably listening. I just felt like, though, that Dallas knew what Arizona's game plan was going to be in this game. It's not anything. It's you wouldn't do your whole defense redo. Now, where you would redo your whole defense is if Micah Parsons wasn't there. Now you have to figure out how to, okay, we've got this player that we move all around. So now that would be with Diggs being out. I don't think so. I just feel like that Arizona did a great job of handling your front seven, and then they were able, like Kearse saying, they get blockers up on the second level. Couldn't get guys off blocks at all. So I don't think it had anything to do with Diggs. I think it was more about that they just did not respect Arizona's ability to run the ball the way that they did. I know I did. That's why I was on this station and all these Love of the Star and everything else talking about, I don't know about this Arizona game. I don't know. I mean, Dallas is – Dave Pasch, the play-by-play guy for the Arizona Cardinals, I asked him about finishing games. I said, hey, Arizona finished games? And he's like, no. They just don't have enough talent. They just don't have enough talent. That's the problem here. So you being a very talented team, them not being a talented team, you would say the Cowboys would probably win this football game. But man, they did not bring it today.
They certainly didn't. And one of the anchors that
defensively
they didn't.
Yeah.
And one of the anchors of that defense, Jonathan Hankins, who I just mentioned, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not always about running in the middle, and that's an area that seems to be improved for the Cowboys. Certainly at times gave up runs today, but the perimeter runs as well are a major issue. But here's Jonathan Hankins postgame.
Can you just talk about the problems with run fits, stopping the run and spelling in the first half and had over 180 yards rushing?
I just think we went locked in all 11. Just went on the same page. AZ did a good job of capitalizing on us not being where we need to be, and they definitely gashed us too many times.
When you look at when you guys are rolling in the run defense, what are you guys doing better, well, and as a unit?
Everybody's in that gap, getting some knockback, playing a gap and a half, and today pretty much we didn't do that at all, man. You got to give double guys credit. They came out and punched us in the face, so just got to, watch the film, learn from it, and get ready for next week.
Is it harder when they have so many guys that can make those plays, whether it's James, the quarterback, Rondale, all those guys?
They had a good amount of guys that were making big plays today. Hats off to those guys. They just was the better team today. We just got to, watch the film get better and move on from this.
How surprising is this, though, after the way y'all performed the first 2 games and 7-10 deficit, you stopped the run, and coming here to face the Arizona team is 0-2, and to get handled like that?
It's definitely a punch in the mouth, man. Like, obviously, I don't think we expect Flores to go down like this, but, that's definitely what happened today. We just got to learn from it, and can't allow that to happen again.
When they were able to run the ball like they did, and it's kind of hard to get a pass rush, does that kind of take you out of rhythm? Because in the last couple games, you guys have just really excelled at getting after the quarterback.
Yeah, we was never definitely in rhythm, especially when it came to pass. They didn't really like that. We really needed to pass the ball. We didn't do a good job of stopping that run, or inside or outside. So just got to watch the film. Like I said, just kind of get better and not let this happen again.
I mean, he's right. I mean, Dobbs essentially had a, stat line, much like Dak did the first 2 weeks, just 17 of 21. They only threw the ball 21 times. He only had 189 yards and 1 touchdown.
9 yards a play, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, they're basically first down every time.
And
he
will usually throw you one. I know in the first 2 games, there are times where he will throw you one, and you had to be ready for it. And he didn't.
The one that I remember, and it was unlucky. The Van Der Esch went
chip
right through his hands, and it ends up being a catch. And those were plays that the ball's bouncing the right way the first 2 weeks for the Cowboys. Today it wasn't.
Right.
They were making those plays, and LV let that one go through his hands, and then it's deflected, and I believe it was caught maybe by Rondale Moore. It's
a 5-yard play, I think, is what it was. Yeah.
So, man, I mean, that's a gut punch. But, I mean, to your point about the pin and pull.
Pin and pulls.
Right? If you're Dan Quinn, and you're schematically you got to figure this stuff out for next week, because you can bet, the Patriots are a copycat league. They're going to see that. And they're probably going to do a lot of the same stuff offensively with Bill O'Brien there. I mean, what's your best way to counteract that?
It's a good question. Because what happens to you is pin and pull it's just so simple to run. And I don't know why more teams don't do it. We used to see back in the day, the Washington, what they're now the Commanders, but back in the day, they were the Redskins back in the day. And with Joe Gibbs, and they used to run a play called counter tray, and they would run it out of different formations, but it was down block, 2 guys around. There was a lot of it really took advantage of teams that maybe you don't want to block, like having to deal with Hankins one-on-one. Let's get hip to hip and rear to rear and try and push. It really you're just screening him and then running the ball off the edge. So if you don't get penetration, say you get, you have that ability to beat a pin and pull team, you got to get up the field and be like what we saw today from Osa. When he gets up the field, and you can kind of make it disruptive, and you can't get the puller. What you call is the puller's trying to go, and all of a sudden there's just cluster of guys right there, and now
too much trash. Now he's got to go through the trash.
Exactly. So how well you can control when you feel that down block, the ability to squeeze the hole and not get shielded from the play. Fight off that block. I just think it's a good way to block Dallas.
Yeah.
Just because of how, but Dallas is a team that will, their run fits aren't always great, just for the reason you and I were talking about. They are interested in getting up the field and getting after the passer. They're built that way. But they're also built to play with a lead. We saw what happened tonight when they got behind. It was a little bit of a struggle for them.
A lot of your calls still to go through. I see the phone lines are still loaded. One will certainly get to you as well. I know a lot of you want to vent after a 28-16 disappointing Cowboys loss to the Arizona Cardinals as well. But we'll get to you. We'll also hear from Malik Hooker, Tank Lawrence. We got Tony Pollard audio teed up for you as well. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Buffalo Wild Wings will be hosting a weekly Football Feast live radio show with 105.3 The Fans.
avoids a sack. He runs left. Backside block. Cuts right. 20, 15. How about Prescott? Down to the 10.
That is our What a Play of the Game, brought to you by Windstar. As the casino of the Dallas Cowboys, Windstar knows what it means to be a star with over 10,000 of your favorite electronic games. The all-new two-story Windstar Spa and Cascades, their luxury pool complex. Windstar really is the place to feel like a star. Please game responsibly. I know our buddy Peyton Russell, big fan of Windstar, and it is a fantastic place to go. Now, I did love that run from Dak Prescott, and it looked like old school, healthy, pre-injury Dak. And there were times, I know we've been asked this a lot, do you think maybe Dak should have utilized his legs a little bit more, specifically in the red zone? I've always felt, and he's had success throughout his career.
He said that, didn't he, a couple of times, that he needed to run a little bit more.
And it's not the first time he said this. I wonder when he's actually going to start, you know what, it's not there. Let me just go ahead and take it. Now, there was one time I thought, all right, and it might have been that fourth down play, the 4th and 4, where he's flushed out of the pocket, and I thought, okay, now he's got a chance at the corner, but I think it did close pretty quickly, so I don't know if he'd actually have gotten it, but it's certain situations like that where I do think that could be a strength for the Cowboys and maybe solve some of their red zone issues.
I think that Mike McCarthy has to look at everything right now. To me, I'd like to keep Dak out of harm's way, but if it means some of the RPO stuff or read option stuff or something just to kind of maybe a little bit different with him running the ball. I've always believed with Dak when he's muddied and bloodied, he tends to play some really good football. He gets into the game that way. But I don't think anything for Mike McCarthy needs to be off the table now when it comes to his red zone offense. I think he needs to find a way, okay, what are we not winning here? Where are we losing opportunities? Is it, last week it was a couple of Tyron Smith had a holding penalty on a, backside play where it was a 6-yard touchdown run. He had another missed block that resulted in, there are things that happen. There's good play design where Tolbert was a non-factor today, by the way, wasn't he? But Tolbert, they tried to sneak him out, much like what Arizona did with Rondale Moore, tried to sneak him out, and the Jets were ready for it. So I don't think anything's off the table when it comes to what they need to do to potentially get things better or be more productive in the red zone.
All right, let's head back out to the phone. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus here after a 28-16 Cardinals victory over the Dallas Cowboys. Let's go out to Eric in Sacramento. Eric, what's going on here in the official post-game show of the Dallas Cowboys?
What's up, boys? I feel pretty good about this loss because I feel like it's the NFL, and at some point everyone gets smacked in the mouth. And if this team can get smacked in the mouth, make corrections on defense like I expect them to, and bounce back, that's great. Whereas right now, the blueprint's kind of been laid out to stop this defense. So either you fix it now and get better and make a run, or you're in for a long season. I also want to see more Rico Dowdle. I feel like every time he touches the ball, something good happens, and I feel like he runs hard. So that's something. Also feel like this fullback is awesome. I'd love to see some fullback dives like out in Green Bay a few years ago with the old Mike McCarthy. We still have Micah Parsons, so it's a long season. But I'm excited about the future. I mean, I feel like we still have a talented roster. There's a lot of hate going on, obviously, because people are overreacting. But I'm looking forward to bouncing back against New England with a coach that knows how to put together a game plan to take away what you do well. So if this team can make corrections and get a win next week, I feel good about it. So thanks, boys.
Thank you for the call, Eric. I mean, look, I love the positivity. It is just one game in a long 17-game season. I don't think that the defense all of a sudden went from being one of the best to just being one of the worst. I think that they will eventually fix some of this run defense deficiencies that they had today. But certainly, you're going to overreact after a loss like that. But, I mean, when you're an 11-point favorite, you go into Arizona. Hey, Arizona's got some qualities to their football team, no doubt. And I get it. The Cowboys were very, very injured. You're without 3 offensive line starters. Trayvon Diggs, certainly that took an emotional toll on the team. But these things are not an excuse. The Arizona Cardinals also didn't have players. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. I know we talked about that on air during the Diggs injury, man. You got to weather the storm. It's next man up. And certainly, Deron Bland's a guy that stepped in and was very, very capable for this team a year ago. But this was a gut punch. This was a bit of humble pie, and certainly we'll see how good this team is how do they bounce back next week at home against New England?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching New England. I know they got a nice win against the Jets today. Haven't been scoring a lot of points. Looked good against Philadelphia for the most part. We're able to kind of do some things, but just couldn't finish that one off. So this will be a different matchup. Bill Belichick, he's an absolute genius when it comes to finding ways to make your quarterback have to be uncomfortable. Does he have the personnel? I don't know. He's got a couple of guys that are really good players on defense, but it'll come down to how well that, can Dak Prescott, how well can he play against Mac Jones too? Both these quarterbacks are, coming off, like I say, Mac Jones is one of those guys that doesn't generate a whole heck of a lot, doesn't really scare you a whole heck of a lot. But
about mobility, that's a guy that.
But the thing that would scare me is all of a sudden Ezekiel Elliott kind of finding some traction running the football against a defense we talked about last week with the Jets. We felt like it was a pretty good run defense.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm looking forward to kind of keeping an eye on.
Either way, today, just a really disgusting performance. There's no way around it. From play calling to, on the field, it was just, this wasn't the Dallas Cowboys team you expected to see. Certainly not the defense that you saw from the first 2 weeks that we were so excited about and high on. All right, let's go out to Palmer. Palmer, how you doing, my dude? Palmer in Dallas, what's up?
Hey, gentlemen, great show as always. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
I've got some great news and some bad news. Which one you like first?
All right, let's go with, what do you think, Bryan? Bad first?
Bad's good.
The bad news is, and I've heard y'all talk about it last year at the end of the season, we just don't have a great quarterback. Dak is very good, but this franchise, he's been through coordinators, he's been through coaches, and he's still standing. And unfortunately, I think Mike is going to get the knife too. And I think Mike's a really good coach. We just do not have a quarterback that can get us to an NFC championship game or a Super Bowl. The great news is the Cowboys are a great team. I think they had a letdown. One of their best defenders went down in practice midweek. That's a big letdown. I think we have great coaching. They will make adjustments. We will win 11 or 12 games and make the playoffs. There were 3 defenders on that interception around number 3, Cooks. You can't – great quarterbacks don't make that throw. And Dak's a really good quarterback. He's just not great. And I would love to listen to y'all talk about that. Have a great night, gents.
Appreciate you, Palmer. Bryan, I think that, we've talked a lot about this. I feel similarly. I think that Dak's had great moments. I don't think Dak is in the great category. You're in year 8 of this thing. And, you'll talk with people that are Dak defenders. And, at times I've been one myself.
Mm-hmm.
But he's right. Like, at times you can't blame the scheme. You can't blame the coordinator. There's times where I just want my quarterback to go out there and lift your football team, make a play.
Yeah. I'm to the point, and I'm to that point where I can understand what Mike McCarthy's doing or trying to do. I wonder though, is he being too limited with Dak?
Do you think Mike McCarthy believes in Dak?
I think he does.
Yeah.
The way he calls plays at times, I don't think this is one game though, right?
It's one game. And
it's one game.
But the problem is, honestly,
it's week 3 of Mike McCarthy calling plays, right?
It is.
I think Mike McCarthy, and people are going to go, damn, Bryan, you're never going to blame the quarterback. And I blame the quarterback plenty.
Sure you do.
But Mike McCarthy's the one that took the role of primary play caller here. He's the one, and there have been some times where they've absolutely moved the ball well. This red zone stuff is a problem. It is a problem. We shouldn't be talking about the way that they move the ball is fine. But McCarthy, there's something there, and is it on Dak? I think he's part of it. I think that interception he threw today, that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen in that situation.
You can't come away with no points.
Can't come away, but they were there 5 times. McCarthy, Dak. I'm not going to sit there and just put it all on Dak. And I don't think you are either.
No.
But I do feel like, though, I'm willing to see if they can fix these red zone issues. You know, I'm willing, because I watched red zone issues last week, and I watched various guys have busted assignments or busted plays in the red zone that led to them not getting points. So I don't know you can sit there and just put it on the quarterback. But does he need to be better? He absolutely does, because he doesn't need to be throwing an interception in that situation. You know, and I'm sure when we watch the All-22, it's going to like, whoa, wait, he missed this guy or he missed that guy. You know, that's what I'm hoping to, I mean, I want to learn, but to sit there and just put it all on him, I don't think that's the right thing.
No, I'm with you. You know, he needed to be better today.
But I see what you're saying.
So did the defense. It's just I'm kind of thinking of it at the totality of his career.
He needed to, when they had everybody out, he needed to be the difference maker today.
Specifically today, right? Like your defense was outstanding the first 2 weeks. Dak, you didn't have to be good. Today, your defense laid an egg. The blame should go. The defense gave up 222 yards on the ground. You're not going to win a lot of games, but you were still in it. And that offensive line, despite the fact that you had three guys, two of them making their first career starts, they performed well enough to give you a chance. And I would just love my quarterback to be able to lift up the team in some games, just in certain moments. You don't have to be great all the time, but today was one where I kind of needed to lean on my quarterback a little bit. And unfortunately, maybe it was the play calling. Maybe it was the lack of separation. There's always way more that goes into it than it just being on that one player.
You said this is his 8th year, but this is his first year with Mike calling plays. I think Mike needs to figure some things out as a play caller.
I think you're right, because the Cowboys were first in the NFL in the red zone the previous 2 years under Kellen Moore. And I wasn't a massive Kellen Moore guy, but the red zone woes are right now a big issue. And
that's on him. It's on McCarthy and Schottenheimer.
Yeah.
Because that you know, what do you do in the offseason? You figure out ways. They were telling us, oh, hey, 70% we're going to keep, 30%. What's the 30%? Probably working on the run game being better. You know, trying to figure out ways not to let people just completely shut them down. But I as much as everybody out there wants to blame the quarterback, which is fair, this play caller needs to figure it out too. Down in the red zone especially, he needs to figure that out.
Week 1, 3 red zone touchdowns on 4 red zone drives. Week 2, 2 red zone touchdowns on 6 red zone drives. Today, 1 red zone touchdown on 5 red zone drives. It's getting worse by the week.
I think Arizona had a lot to do with that today.
They probably did.
I guarantee.
And look, Mike basically told you that they did. But again, that's. I mean, you're the coach, but you're the play caller. You got to find a way to correct it at some point.
I totally agree, and I don't know if the head coach in that situation is really helping the quarterback.
I think you're spot on with that. I agree with that. I do,
because the way that he does call plays leads you to believe that he's. And you asked me the question. Does he trust?
And that's why I'm asking, because with the play calling, it looks to be a little bit, man, like I don't want to put my quarterback in a bad position.
I don't want to sit there and say that he doesn't trust Dak Prescott. But I have heard at times where Jerry Jones, with previous staffs and stuff, I've heard Jerry Jones ask, hey, is this really our guy? And this is before Dak got the extension. So I've heard those questions, but I haven't heard anything about the head coach not now, maybe the way he calls plays could tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah. All right, we got our defensive stop of the game. We'll get through more of your calls as well. Plus, I want to hear from Tony Pollard, who did go over 100 yards on the ground. That's coming up. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Apply now to the University of North Texas Dallas Cowboys online MBA in Sport Entertainment Management. This unparalleled graduate degree combines UNT's high-caliber Tier 1 academics with the world-class business expertise of the Dallas Cowboys. Designed for the working professional with immersive in-person boot camps and online courses, the program can be completed in 12 to 24 months. UNT, a proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey Dallas Cowboys fans, hope y'all are ready for game day. We all know a car accident can put anyone on the sidelines. The law boss, Michael Uvalli, is here to help get you back on your feet and yelling, "Go Cowboys!" So, if you've been injured in a car accident, don't wait, call now. Our team is available 24/7 to take your call at 1-800-LAW-BOSS. That's 1-800-LAWBOSS. The Law Boss, the official personal injury attorney sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Principal office, Dallas, Texas.
The big game is here. It's the new Cowboys scratch ticket from the Texas Lottery. Play today for your chance to win up to $100,000 instantly. Or enter for a chance to win Dallas Cowboys VIP experiences like Draft Day War Room packages, season tickets, and much more. Make every day game day with the new Cowboys scratch ticket. Dallas Cowboys Football Club Limited. Visit TexasLottery.com for odds. Must be 18 or older to participate. Play responsibly.
A true Dallas Cowboys fan is...
Claps his hands, has the ball, come back. He's sacked by Parsons. Caught him from behind, and the Lion eats at the 20.
Micah Parsons with our defensive stop as they forced a 3-and-out in the second half there. Micah with that big sack, his 30th sack of his career. And I'll have some nuggets on that in just a moment. But our defensive stop of the game brought to you by Reliant, an NRG company. Now, when it comes to that, with that sack, Micah Parsons has 30.5 sacks in 36 career games. He's the 8th NFL player, first Cowboy since 1982 to surpass 30 sacks in his first 36 career games. Incredible. And Micah is certainly a beast, but there was too much of this game. And, you know, credit probably does need to be shown to the Arizona Cardinals and their play calling and the way that they tried to neutralize Micah. But it was a rarity, but he really did not factor a ton into this one. They ran at him at times. You saw him get upfield and kind of run into DeMarcus Lawrence a few times as well. It seemed like maybe he was grabbing onto his wrist here and there, but Micah, who has been on pace to not only be the Defensive Player of the Year, but maybe even an MVP candidate, which is extremely rare as a defensive player. Today, even with that sack, for 60 minutes, maybe not his best football.
No, and the Cardinals clearly had a plan for how to attack him. We talked about with Jonathan Gannon, his background with Philadelphia, how
that's a good point.
How Philadelphia did a pretty good job of him the one time with it's so funny because they only ran the RPO that one time, and it was a huge gain. And they never really went back to it, but they didn't need it. The creativity that they had with their play calling, I thought was pretty good. But there are those people that believe, and I know we talked to Moose Johnston in the pregame show. He was bringing up like, hey, run the ball at Micah Parsons. Make him have to defend. I know the long run, they froze him. They really did. They froze him, where he goes down and, then the ball's bouncing outside. And then, so he's, there's those things where, we were just kind of talking like, just take the quarterback.
Right.
Make it really simple.
Yeah. So, I think just always go for the quarterback if you're him in that situation.
Just take the quarterback and then let everybody else. But everybody else has to be able to do their responsibility. If Micah's taking the quarterback and then all of a sudden, then, nobody else is doing their job, well, then, you got some problems there.
877-881-1053 is the number to call, the number to text. We'll get to your calls here in just a second. But right now, let's pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Go baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
All right, let's go out to line 5. We got Dan in Dallas who's been waiting patiently. Dan, how are you, sir?
Been better, man. I got two things here. First, one, I'm pressing the panic button because Mike had his chance to come back in the game and call good plays and score a lot of points, and he didn't. And he's about 10 years past his prime in play calling, and it hits me in my gut, and I'm pressing the panic button, and I'm worried. The second thing, we do this at least once, sometimes twice a year, where we have our star players who could play the game. They're injured, but we sit them out because we're looking at weeks ahead, and we think Jerry, Steven, McCarthy, that we're the Dallas freaking Cowboys and we're America's team, and these are the Arizona Cardinals, and we don't need good players. So we're just going to sit 3 offensive linemen, and we're going to let Dak run for his freaking life every time he gets the ball in his hands. And we did this last year against the Eagles. The last week Cooper Rush started. Dak could have played that game, and guess what? We dropped it. And then in Week 17, we're looking back and thinking, man, it would have been really nice if Dak could have started that game, which he was fully capable of doing, and maybe, just maybe, we could have had an extra win in that column, and we'd be in better position in the playoffs. But no, we're the Dallas Cowboys. We're America's team, and we don't need good players. And we did it tonight, and we're probably going to do it again this year, and we do it every freaking year.
Can I ask a question? With the players that played today, with those players that played today, you didn't feel like Dallas could win this game?
Yeah, I felt
which team had a better roster? Which team's got the better roster overall?
Yeah, the Cowboys have the better roster, but when you go into the week,
where are you better? Are you better at quarterback?
Yeah, did you watch that game?
Yeah,
Dak got the ball in his hands, was running for his freaking life.
No, not every play. He absolutely was not. He was absolutely not running every single play.
He get injured.
He did not. He wasn't running every single play. He wasn't. Now, if you want to blame Mike McCarthy, that's fine. But you had your roster is over the 48 that you dressed are probably better than what Arizona was dressing. Am I right about that?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're telling me though that the Cowboys, purposely sat their guys. Me personally, I felt like I picked the Cowboys to win 28-20. I wish I had the balls to pick Arizona in this game because the film that I saw led me to believe that Arizona is going to give the Cowboys a great game. It was going to be a tough game. I said it all damn week. Hey,
I was with you when I found out we were sitting 3 starting offensive linemen.
Well, not sitting because they're injured. I mean, to me, I'm sitting there. I would much rather have healthy offensive linemen going forward than I do play them in a game. Then all of a sudden they're gone for 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
Because of a hamstring injury or a knee injury or something like that. I mean, this thing is a long season. And you should, you know what? You should have been good enough to go out and beat the Arizona Cardinals with the roster you had today. You should have been. You weren't good. How many defensive players sat? None of them. Well, you lose Diggs. Okay, that's your loss. But who showed up on defense today?
Hey, you bet. Look, I just hope that at Week 18 we're not looking back at this week and thinking, "Gee,
we are." It's going to happen. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's going to happen. It happens every year. You're going to look back at one game and you go, "Gosh, dang! In Week 3, I wish we'd have beaten Arizona." You know, You're probably going to have a game you wish you would have won, and then you're going to probably have a game you probably think, man, there's no chance we're going to win this game, and then you find a way to win it.
Right.
That's how the season flows.
I hear you, Dan. I just don't know why you think that they purposefully sat these guys. We talk to Zach Martin once a week on the G-Bag Nation. If Zach Martin could play, he's playing. If Tyler Broaddus could play, he's playing. I know Tyron Smith was suited up. He was a game captain. If he could have played, they'd have put Tyron out there. They're not going to put hurt players out there.
They're not going to put hurt players out there.
They didn't just sit them just for the sake of sitting them because they thought, we can beat the Arizona Cardinals without them. Those dudes were injured. They couldn't play. Britt Brown and the medical staff, they're not going to put them out there. Appreciate the call, Dan. Thank you. But yeah, and even with Dak against Philly, they'd have played Dak. Yeah. They wanted to give Dak an extra week. Yeah. I mean, the Cowboys have the best training staff in the business for a reason. They're not going to put players out there that aren't ready to play. We saw it with Michael Gallup Monday Night Football last year against the Giants. Physically, Michael Gallup could have played that game. Right. Michael Gallup goes out on the turf. He's not feeling mentally right.
Sure.
He's not trusting that knee. They say, you know what? We're not going to put you out there. There comes a point where the training staff has to get in the way of the players if they can't go out there to perform. I think that it's a little bit of, you're jumping to a conclusion there by assuming the Cowboys are sitting their guys because they think they're too cocky and they can just beat the Cardinals without him. No. We know Zach Martin. Yeah. If Zach Martin was healthy to go out there and play, he's playing. He wasn't sitting just for the sake of sitting.
Yeah. I believe, though, to me, as difficult as the game was going to be, that your 48 was better than their 48. The problem was your 48 wasn't good enough today. Their 48 was better. And you have to look at that, and that includes the coaches as well. You know, the guys that they dressed should have been good enough today to beat the Arizona Cardinals.
And the offensive line got better as the game went on. You ran for Tony Pollard at 122 yards rushing.
Yeah.
They were good enough to win.
Yeah.
Your defense didn't show up. None of those guys sat.
Yeah.
To your point, right? So, I mean, we can't make excuses for this. This is the NFL. Nobody feels sorry for you if you're down some guys. If they could have played, they would have. They didn't, and you got your ass kicked. That's what happened. Excuses we can make, but they lost, and the Cardinals were just better than them today.
They were.
All right, let's go out to James in Fort Worth. James, what's going on, man? You're on with Zach Wolchuk and the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus.
Zach, Mr. Broaddus, I appreciate you guys taking my call.
Sure.
Long-time Tolo.
Thank you.
I respect all that you guys have to say.
Thank you.
My question kind of piggybacks off Palmer's call earlier. I've been a Dak critic since probably 2017. I was a big Tony Romo fan.
Sure.
I think the way we sent Tony Romo out was kind of unfair, but I understand why it happened that way. So realistically, how much blame from tonight's game can we put on Dak? Some of the throws I saw looked like they were still behind the receivers, missing some stuff. And I know coaching has a lot to do with it, but I also feel like McCarthy knows his personnel. He knows what Dak is capable of, which is why why the offense looks so good with the Texas Coast offense. Those short dink and dunk passes just kind of move the ball. We've got a good runner in Tony Pollard. So I'm just curious what you guys' opinion on is how fair it would be to put blame on Dak.
It's fair. It's fair because he's got to make plays. And to Zach's point, you know, when you're struggling on defense, you need to find a way. Somebody needs to pick you up, and usually it's the quarterback. You know, if the quarterback played well today, if the quarterback made all the throws, you know, if the quarterback got him in and out of some checks, you know, their roster is better. They should have won this game today. It was going to be a tough game, but you know, their defense didn't show up, and so when the defense doesn't show up, what has to happen? The quarterback has to show up. The line has to show up. The running backs have to show up. Receivers. The head coach, who's the primary play caller, he didn't show up today. So to me, yeah, if you put blame on Dak, but also make sure as you're pointing the finger, point it at McCarthy.
Yeah.
You know, he just pointed at Brian Schottenheimer, pointed at Dan Quinn. They no-showed today in the desert. They absolutely no-showed on defense, but their quarterback has to play better, especially when they need him to play better when the defense isn't on.
Yep, no question. All right, let's go out to Danny in Oakland in the Bay Area. Danny, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Bryan and Zach? How you guys doing?
We're good, brother.
Thanks for taking my call. I usually text you guys. I'm Hawk from the Bay, and I'm a longtime Cowboy fan. I left Texas in 1977. I'm in Northern California, and I'm right in the middle of the 49ers nature with my big star on every day. But we have always had problems with Arizona. We even lost to them last year.
You're 2-8 against them in the last 10.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, and this year, like I came home late and I caught the game. We had two opportunities. We was inside the red zone.
Sure.
You get inside that red zone, you got to win that game.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You got to win the game. You know, I don't know what's going on with the play caller in the red zone, but I would like Bryan. He has been answering all of my questions. I thank you guys for your expertise, because like you say, you know, I want Dak to run a little bit more. Seems like if he warm up in the beginning, you know, we get somewhere with it. Mm-hmm. You know, matter of fact, you guys broke down the Arizona Cardinals this week. I think it was Thursday and Friday on your breakdown. I listened to it on the way home from work. And, man, you told us everything. And still today we went down there. We was in the red zone.
Yeah.
You got to come up with 7.
Yeah.
You just can't go there and come out without nothing. And I would have went for the 3. I'm like you. Hey, but something's going on with them. Hopefully they'll get it together. But I'm looking forward to going on to New England because, man, like I say, I couldn't take the Arizona Cardinals on this game because I've been a big-time Cowboy fan since the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. Yeah, you know, man, we've that Arizona's been tough. Arizona has not been a place that has been kind to the Dallas Cowboys. Heck, Bryan and I were talking about it this time last week when we were looking ahead to the Arizona. We were like, that game's not going to be easy, man.
No, not at all. And I like I say, I just try my best to look at the tape and evaluate it from a guy that used to have to do pro evaluations and where you might attack. I just didn't feel. I felt like you had a better roster. I really did. I felt like you had a better roster, even with all the changes in the offensive line. But you shouldn't play like a better roster today. You didn't coach like a better roster today, too. You know, at desperate team theory, we always kind of talk about it on our shows. You know, that was a desperate team, but that was a team that, to me, on tape, that wasn't an 0-2 team playing. There are a lot of bad teams out there, and I didn't think that was a bad team.
Yeah.
Maybe their roster isn't as good as others, but they just did not know how to finish some games. That was their biggest problem.
All right, Big Jim, I see you on hold as well. We'll get to you. We'll also hear from Tony Pollard. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Bell Nunnally has been committed to serving their clients for more than 4 decades. This Dallas-based full-service law firm offers an extensive array of legal Shotgun for Prescott. Looking left, looking right. Little check down to Dowdle on the right side. Running hard. 10, 5, near the goal line. Rico Dowdle, touchdown Cowboys.
Rico Dowdle, his first career touchdown right there on a screen. He finished with 21 yards on the ground on 4 carries, averaging over 5 yards a carry. And then he had those 3 catches, 25 yards, and a touchdown. Also had an incredible reception earlier in the game as well, where he was able to break a bunch of tackles. Looked like it would be a negative gain.
Yeah.
Makes it a positive. Rico Dowdle, our player of the game. And that is brought to you by JackBlack.com.
There you go.
Want to use what the pros use? Jack Black is the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit GetJackBlack.com today. To me, I've been somebody that believes in this young running back depth. I know some want the Cowboys to go out there and sign a veteran runner. I think anytime you've given Rico Dowdle opportunities, he's shined. I think he's really good in pass pro. You didn't see any of Deuce Vaughn today, but I think the Cowboys are just fine when it comes to depth behind Tony Pollard, who also had a very good game, 23 carries, 122 yards for Pollard, but really, really loved what we saw to Rico Dowdle today.
Yeah, there was some thoughts about how this running back room would look once we got to Oxnard. Malik Davis showed that he's a good runner, good catcher, but not as good of a pass blocker. But what we've seen with Rico Dowdle is, and the only thing that ever held him back was his health. You know, every time that you wanted to put faith in Rico Dowdle and what he was going to do, on your offense, something would happen to him. He would get injured, and then he'd miss several weeks, and he'd become kind of an afterthought. But now without any Ezekiel Elliott here, he becomes that guy that guy that can make you miss, that physical back, hand him the ball, throw him the ball, blitz pickup. All those things are super positive about Rico Dowdle.
Yeah, and again, to me, I think Rico, maybe he's a guy that you end up getting more involved in short yardage and in the red zone area. I mean, they're looking for any type of positive opportunities they can find. I mentioned Tony Pollard. We did hear from TP after the game. Another strong performance for him as the lead dog. Of course, next week we'll get Ezekiel Elliott back at AT&T Stadium. A lot of hype leading up to that one. But here's Tony Pollard after the game.
I mean, 1 of 5 in the red zone, 2 of 6 last week. What do you think the issue was?
We just got to be better. We got to get back in the lab, get back to work.
How difficult was it, considering you have 3 starters along the offensive line today?
It was a little tough, but, that's football. That's the game we play. Guys go down, guys get banged up. You got to be able to adapt, and we didn't do that today.
Was it good as things were the first 2 weeks? How surprised that this happened today?
It's the NFL. Every team, anybody can win each week. So you got to come in and respect your opponents. They did a good job preparing this week, and they came out with the dub.
How tough was it to operate with 3 years starting offensive lineman being down?
It was tough, but we're prepared for those type moments. Just communicating. Getting guys rotated in practice, so it's not like just a big culture shock just being out there for the first time. So we did a good job. I feel like adapting on the fly. But could have been a little better.
Tony, you guys have done well over the first 2 weeks with penalties, not getting those penalties, not committing those. Talk about the challenge of having to overcome so many, and especially on the road.
Yeah, we got to be more disciplined. It's hard to beat teams when you beat yourself like that with so many penalties, and we just got to be better.
What's the mindset like on right now? Is it shock? Is it what?
It's one game. The same way if we won this game, that's one game and on to the next one. Unfortunately, we couldn't win, but we got to get back to work next week.
Tony, how difficult is it when you're playing behind like you guys were today and just continually trying to play catch up?
It makes it a little different, a little difficult calling plays, not being able to call certain plays that you want. But, like I said, we got to be better and make it work.
Tony Pollard after the loss. Bryan, enjoyed that?
No, the questions.
What's the mindset?
Mindset. I love you, Chill.
Same if we won today.
I really do.
If we lost.
I love you, Chill. Clarence Hill with the question, the old mindset question.
The identity.
The identity mindset. What do you want him to say? Oh, we just, we peed down our leg today. We weren't very good. We couldn't really, we ran the ball well enough. We get in the red zone. We couldn't make anything happen there. We don't execute very, that's the mindset question. Yeah, you just lost the game. You lost to a team you should have beaten. You're that. I'll tell you one thing though. The question you need to ask is to Mike McCarthy is, and he'll probably say, well, I disagree with you on this. How mentally tough is this team? If you want to be that, if you want to ask the question that a psychiatrist or whoever asked, how mentally tough is this team? Yeah, they dealt with some adversity and all that, but they went out there and didn't play worth a damn.
No.
And you know what? The majority of their guys, the guy that they lost was Diggs, but everybody else on that defense was there today. I don't think anybody else was. But how mentally tough are you as a team to go out there and give up damn near 200 yards rushing and then be so bad in the red zone? You talk about, they talk about, this would be a great test in adversity. I hear Mike McCarthy talking about that with Brad Sham, the pregame show. It's a great test for us. Well, how about doing something about it? How about, Dan Quinn, how about doing something in the running game there? Don't allow him to do that. How about the players step up a little bit? This was one of those things where you kind of question a little bit about the mental toughness of your team. I'm not saying they're not tough, because all football players are tough, but can you overcome things? And the Cowboys didn't overcome anything today.
No, they didn't.
No,
they did not. Elsewhere, just a quick look around the division as we put a bow on this one. Look ahead to next week. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. Appreciate all you guys calling and texting in. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have time to get to everybody's calls. We love you, and just make sure you call back in next week. I really apologize for that. But you did have the Commanders lose today to the Bills, and nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. 37-3, Buffalo got the win there, so the Commanders fall to 2-1. We know what happened to the Giants on Thursday Night Football. They fell to the San Francisco 49ers. Giants are now 1-2. Tomorrow, you brought this up earlier, we get 2-0 Philly at Tampa Bay against the 2-0 Buccaneers. Maybe the Bucs can go ahead and play spoiler there, as the Eagles are 5-point favorites, and everybody's still tied atop the NFC East.
Yeah, that would be nice, but this whole thing is about take care of your own business, and going to the desert and getting a victory today would have done a lot of positive things. It kind of keeps you that momentum. Now there's just so many questions about the Cowboys going in this New England game, and the questions are going to be asked is, okay, if Jonathan Gannon and his staff are scheming things against you, what's Bill Belichick going to do?
Yeah,
there's another one of these rosters that probably you're a better roster, but you got to show up and play every week. You got to show up and play. They don't play this game on paper. And you got to figure out a way. In the first couple of weeks, everything was going well. And today you had some adversity and you weren't very good. And Bill Belichick's going to do that, and he's going to give you some adversity again next week.
He certainly will. Big thank you to Jeff, Ross, Peyton, Eric, Tim. We'll be back next week, same time. Until then, hugs and hand pounds, everybody, and you're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Don't fumble your wax routine. This season, not only are the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders hitting the field,